Recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly, Mayor Lorraine. Councilmember Newsom. Here. Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Here.
Councilmember Sveko-Goditsky.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Fernandez.
Here.
And Mayor Lorraine.
Here. Thank you and welcome. We're excited to be here in person with options for those who choose not to be in person to still participate virtually. Thank you for your cooperation and for helping us maintain an efficient and accessible meeting environment. There are several ways to participate in public comment tonight if you're so inclined. For those attending in person here in Chambers, you can complete a yellow request to speak slip held by the City Clerk. Please provide him one. If you're participating remotely and you're in Zoom, you can use the raise your hand feature and you'll be called upon at the appropriate time. If you're calling in by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. And when called upon, you may press *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close public comment periods for each specific item. For members of the public, if you're watching on YouTube, please just know that we do not currently have a live public comment option on YouTube. If you want to give public comment, you'll want to be on our Zoom webinar instead. Please find the access information on our agenda, which is available on our website, cityofsanmateo.org. And before we begin, I would like to welcome our new assistant manager, city manager, Jennifer Yamaguma. Congratulations and welcome. We're excited to have her join the City of San Mateo, and I will invite our city manager, Alex Kojikian, to provide a few words of introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. So with us today is Jennifer Yamaguma. She has 25 plus years of government experience, most recently from the city of Redwood City. She served as the deputy city manager there, doing all the great things that we're doing here in San Mateo. And so she's already hit the ground running, meeting with our departments and with our staff. And one area that I'm really excited to tap into is she led the AI initiative for the city of Redwood City, and overall phasings of how you can leverage and utilize that technology to best support our community overall. So excited to have you on board and looking forward to having her work with each of you and this wonderful community that we serve.
And Assistant City Manager, if you'd like to say something, I feel it would be remiss if I did not provide you an opportunity, but it's no obligation.
Well, I will add that I grew up in San Mateo, so I've been reminiscing. I thank the council, I thank the city manager for bringing me back to my hometown. So thank you so much.
Excellent, and welcome back. Okay, we now have some ceremonial items. The first is a Juneteenth proclamation, and I'd like to invite to the podium Alexis Lewis, the NAACP San Mateo Branch and Foster City Association of Black Residents Executive Member. Thank you, and San Mateo resident.
Thank you.
Welcome, and I have a proclamation that I would like to read, and then if you have anything you'd like to share, you'll be welcome to do so.
All right.
And thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Whereas on June 19th, 1865, over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was declared, Union General Gordon Granger issued General Order Number 3 in Galveston, Texas, affirming that all previously enslaved people in Texas and the southern states were free from bondage servitude. And whereas the city of San Mateo adopted a resolution to observe Juneteenth as a city holiday, Juneteenth was officially designated as a federal holiday on June 17th, 2021 by President Joe Biden. However, Juneteenth has been continuously celebrated in the United States for 160 years. And whereas the inhumanity of slavery is a dark mark on our country's history, the consequences of which have rippled through time, today, we continue to combat the social and systemic challenges that disproportionately affect Black and African American people. And whereas Juneteenth is a time to recognize the hardships Black and African American people have overcome and the injustices that are still overdue to be righted. And whereas the City of San Mateo is committed to addressing racial inequities within our own community, and we proclaim our dedication to cultivating a more inclusive, welcoming society. Now, therefore, I, Adam Lorraine, Mayor of the City of San Mateo, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize June 19th, 2026 as Juneteenth. Be it further resolved that we call upon our San Mateo community members to seize all opportunities to learn, honor, and celebrate on this important holiday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexis, thank you for joining us. Do you have anything
It's
you'd
my
like to share?
pleasure. I do. I have just a few words, and I'm going to read them. It doesn't mean that they're not important because I'm reading them. I didn't want to forget. I want to thank you, Mayor Lorraine, and the members of the council, members of the staff, for this recognition. Juneteenth is especially meaningful to me because I am the great-great-great-granddaughter of an enslaved man named Henry Jones. He was on a plantation in what is now today Greenville, South Carolina. So it is important to me that slavery remains, talking about it remains a part of our history, and that is not erased from our history. It did happen, and there's still effects of that slavery happening today. Juneteenth commemorates the day when the last enslaved African American learned of their freedom more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, which is insane to me. So somebody got 2 years of free labor. Just wanted to throw that in there. The Emancipation Proclamation was in 1863. It's a day to celebrate freedom, reflect on our nation's history, and recommit ourselves to the ongoing pursuit of justice and equality. It is especially important to recognize the significance of Juneteenth as a time when there are efforts now currently to erase or minimize parts of our history and to diminish the voices and representation of Black Americans in our democracy. Understanding and acknowledging our shared history is essential to building a more just and inclusive future. We all have the responsibility to ensure that lessons of the past are not forgotten, and the right and the opportunities secured through those sacrifices of those who came before us are protected for future generations. I would also like to share that there are several Juneteenth events taking place this weekend, and I'd like to highlight the one that's going to happen in Foster City that is hosted by the Foster City Association of Black Residents and co-hosted by Island United Church. We are proud of our advocacy, our service, and our commitment to advancing civil rights and fostering an inclusive community. I hope to see many of you there to celebrate with us and honor the contributions and resilience of those who came before us and promote unity and understanding for future generations. We look forward to celebrating with you, and I thank you again for this proclamation and for recognizing the importance of Juneteenth in my community.
Thank you. We'll come out and take a photo with you and the proclamation in just a moment, but I just would be remiss if I didn't mention that in addition to this event in Foster City, we do have an event here in the city of San Mateo as well, so you have choices. There will be one in the library on Saturday, June 20th. Remembering Russell City, it'll be from 2 to 4:30 p.m., and one of the featured folks who will be introducing that to us is Mr. Robert Franklin from KCSM. So you can, and maybe you can go to both if you try hard. So very good. Thank you. And let's take a quick photo. Thank you, everyone. We now have another ceremonial item. Item number 2 is ReThink Waste Trash to Art Contest Winners Recognition. And I'd like to invite to the podium Clara Cody, an Environmental Education Fellow with ReThink Waste. Thank you for being here, Clara.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Clara Cody, and I'm here today on behalf of ReThink Waste's Environmental Education Team. This last spring, we hosted our annual Trash to Art contest, open to all third through 5th graders from the ReThink Waste service area. This year, we received 26 submissions from 8 different schools. Our Trash to Art contest asked students to create an art piece of their own imagination with materials that would have otherwise become waste and have been thrown away. This is our way of encouraging elementary students to be creative and give new life to old materials. With us today is Elias, our 5th grade first place winner from Fiesta Gardens International School here in San Mateo, who did exactly that with his art piece, Tree of New Life. Elias wanted to use trash that found its way into the environment, not just stuff from home. So his family of 5 helped him collect litter at Coyote Point. He noticed that nearly all of the litter they collected were bottle caps. This gave him the idea to use bottle caps to make his art piece, the Tree of New Life. Please give Elias, our first place winner, a warm round of applause.
Wow, that was a dramatic entrance.
Elias, would you like to come on up and take some photos?
We'd be happy to get at least one. Council? And I have a certificate of recognition for Elias for his work that we can see on the backdrop here. So I'll deliver that shortly.
Congratulations, Elias. Good job. Congratulations.
Elias, beautiful tree. Thank you.
That's all right. Congratulations, Elias. Thank you for coming tonight. Here is a certificate of recognition.
Awesome. Awesome.
He knows the drill. Okay, we have one more ceremonial item tonight. Item 3 is the I Voted Sticker Design Competition Winners Recognition. And we have here already at our podium, our Deputy City Clerk, Chantal Eaton, to share a few words about this program.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight, we are excited to recognize the young artists who participated in the City of San Mateo's 2026 I Voted and Future Voter Sticker Competition. This competition is part of Generation Voter, also known as Gen V, an initiative created to help young people learn about voting, elections, and civic engagement. Gen V is connected to the Youth Activities Council, or the YAC, through the Parks and Recreation Department, and brings together high school students who are passionate about encouraging their peers to get involved. Over the past few years, Generation Voter has supported voter registration and pre-registration drives at city events like Baba Day, their one favorite, and local high schools, helping approximately about 100 young people in 2025 and 2026 take early steps toward becoming pre-registered voters. They have also helped share information about elections, volunteer opportunities, and ways to participate in local government. This year, we received 55 creative and thoughtful submissions from young artists across San Mateo. Each design reflected civic pride, imagination, and the importance of participating in our democracy. The Youth Activities Council reviewed the submissions and voted to select the 7 winning designs displayed on your screen. These stickers were distributed to all vote centers in the city of San Mateo and shared with voters dropping their ballot at our official ballot drop box in City Hall on Election Day. Some of our winners are able to join us this evening, while others could not attend due to summer schedules and other plans. All 7 winners will receive a certificate of recognition as well as copies of their winning designs printed as stickers. We would also like to recognize all 7 selected artists. I will just say their first names. Verity, Emma, Maktha, Kalina, Narumi, Sanjana, and Serena. At this time, I would like to first invite the winners who are present tonight to come forward. Please join me in giving a big round of applause to this talented young artist, to Generation Voter and the Youth Activities Council for helping make voting more visible, creative, and inspiring for our community. Thank you.
Ah, there are more than one. Yes.
Great work. Thank you so much.
Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations, you're a beautiful sticker. Amazing. I love it. Congratulations. You can watch these ones. All of yours were awesome. There we go.
Hooray! Thank you for being here. Just one more. Got one more certificate to give out. Sorry. Taking pictures of
We'll do one here first, and then we'll do some more. You guys would like to hold up your sticker? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. A couple more.
That is a dad move.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. We're now going to move beyond the ceremonial portion of tonight's meeting, which includes the business items being considered by the council. For that reason, I would like to remind all in the room and online that we will be enforcing our rules of decorum. As such, we do not allow for cheering, jeering, or booing during the business portion of the meeting, as this tends to put a chill on public comment. Our goal is to ensure that all perspectives are heard. Our motto is give respect, get respect, and we appreciate your cooperation with this. City Clerk, can you please read our consent calendar?
With pleasure, Mayor Lorraine. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 4, City Council meeting minutes approval. Item number 5, Boards and Commissions Appointment Subcommittee Appointment Recommendations. Item number 6, November 3, 2026, General Municipal Election, calling the district election for candidates. Item number 7, Cable Casting and Channel Management Services Agreement. Item number 8, Communication Support Services Amendment. Item number 9, Fiscal Year 2026-27 General Liability and Property Insurance Purchase Authorization. Item number 10, Juvenile Diversion Program Case Management Services Agreement. Item number 11, Fiscal Year 2026-27 General Obligation Bond Adoption. Item number 12, Bay Meadows Community Facilities District Special Tax Levy Fiscal Year 2026-27 Adoption. Item number 13, Downtown Parking Equipment, Network Hosting and Materials Amendment. Item number 14, Peninsula Heights Public Improvements Adoption. Item number 15, Fiscal Year 2026-27 Wastewater Treatment Plant Supply of Chemicals Agreements. Item number 16, Wastewater Treatment Plant Biosolids Hauling and Disposal Change Order. Item number 17, Wastewater Treatment Plant Supply of Liquid Emulsion Polymer Agreement. Item number 18, Senior Center Roof Improvements Projects Agreement. Item number 19, Martin Luther King Jr. Park Emergency Field Lighting Equipment Purchase Agreement. Item number 20, El Camino Real Streetlight Relocation Project Agreement. Item number 21, Citywide Street Rehabilitation Package 6B2 Agreement. Item number 22, Citywide Surface Treatment Package 4A2 Project Agreement. And finally, item number 23, Uniform Laundry Services Agreement.
Thank you. Is there any member of the council who would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, if any members of the public who wish to comment on any consent calendar item now, just the items that the city clerk just listed, this would be the time to make your comment. This is for consent calendar items only. If you're in council chambers and you have a request to speak slip, you can give it to the city clerk. If you're online, you may raise your hand. If you're on the phone, you may.
Mayor Lorraine, we have no request to speak in our virtual environment. We have one request to speak in chambers, and we will set the timer at 3 minutes per speaker. Our first and only speaker on consent calendar will be Thomas Lees.
I'll turn this in now.
Thank you.
Oh, that's the other one. I wanted to congratulate all the, first of all, I want to congratulate my friend Sherry Bowles. She's going to be a great personnel board member. And I got all those stickers from voting. I like to vote in person so I can get a sticker. And I was looking at my stickers I got last year, and I thought it'd be appropriate to read. One of them had texts on it. I think I have it here. It's this one. I voted. There's text on there. It says, "Be yourself. Treat others how you want to be treated. Reuse, reduce, recycle. Have manners. Be kind. Help others. Be inclusive. Stay positive. Show empathy. Be one with nature. Animals are equal to humans. Looks don't matter. Don't judge a book by its cover. We are all equal." Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Mayor Lorraine, that concludes public comment on the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I motion.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. City Clerk, can you call a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Svirko-Goditsky?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom?
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash?
Yes.
And Mayor Lorraine?
Yes.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, I'm sorry. At this time, I would like to invite all newly appointed commissioners to come to the front of the dais to receive your oath of office from your city clerk. Thank you for your willingness to serve our community and support the important work of the city's boards and commissions.
I'd like to just stand right here. You guys are just going to stand together, three, and then face this direction. And then if you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Rich Hedges,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of California,
the Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which
the duties upon which
I am about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. Well, thank you for bearing with us on that. I do feel like I had a little speech about how we weren't going to be clapping and whatnot, and then we did it again. But I sit corrected. But from now on, all that I said earlier is truly going to take effect. Okay. Now, next on the agenda is public comment, general public comment. This is for items that are not on our agenda tonight. So members of the public who wish to comment on any item not appearing on our agenda tonight may address the City Council at this time. State law prevents council from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. However, your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. This public comment section is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, that is subject to council's discretion and can be extended if council wishes to do so. If needed, an opportunity for additional public comment may also be provided later in the agenda. City Clerk, can you please tally the total number of requests? Certainly, Mayor Lorraine, at this time we are calling for requests to speak both in chambers and our virtual environment. If you're participating in chambers, please provide me with a request to speak slip. We will be announcing the name of our final speaker, after which point we will not be accepting any additional requests to speak, both in person and virtual. We have 7 requests to speak in person and no requests to speak in our virtual environment. That would set the time per council adopted rules and procedures at 3 minutes per speaker. So we'll begin with our first request to speak in chamber. And if I call your name, if you could please line up to my right, that'll help make sure we receive all of our comments tonight. Our first speaker will be Montosh Kumar, followed by Carla Avidabil and Anna Liu.
How much time do I have? Oh, 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Plenty. So I have already submitted this proposal, transitioning to a full-time salaried city council for San Mateo. I have been a long-time resident, and I'll start with the executive summary. Transitioning the San Mateo City Council from part-time, undercompensated roles to a full-time, professionally salaried position will attract a broader, more diverse talent pool, increase democratic accountability, and guarantee that lawmakers have the dedicated time required to govern our complex, rapidly growing city. We have a budget of more than $300 million and operating budget of about $170 million. That's what I have learned so far. And what I find, and I have talked to lots of people, and I say that, like, guess how much our city council members are making and what is the incentive to serve. These city council members are very competent, elected body of people, and lots of people say, oh, 100,000, 200,000. And I say, like, guess again. And they just, like, go up. I say they get like $14,400. That's less than a barista at a minimum wage makes anywhere. This is a serious business, and we need to give, like, due financial respect to our city members. I know that, like, when we go to hire attorney, city attorney, or city manager, we pay them the market rate. If you combine just the city attorney and city manager's salary, which is $330K base and $338K, that will cover my proposal for the entire city council. And if we had a permanent city council, they would be able to spend lots of time instead of using ChatGPT in their spare time to govern the matters of city, very important matters of city, and they could bring in the shortfall, they can do the supervision, and they can save lots of money, and they can write aggressive grants to get. This is a vestige from, like, really, really old English time, where they were designed like the House of Lords. People who were really wealthy, they were designed to control the politics because they didn't need money. So only the independently wealthy and retired people used to serve in the city council. It's time that we modernize our city council and bring in line.
Thank you, Montosh. Your time is up.
Yeah.
Our next speaker will be Carla Avitabile, followed by Anna Liu and Mary Kwan. And as was announced earlier, we'll be naming the final speaker on public comment, which will be Sean Lee. Go ahead, Carla.
Hi, my name is Carla Avitabile. I'm a Teen Services Librarian 2 at the City of San Mateo's Public Library. I'm here today representing my colleagues. 90% SEIU is our merit. And first, I want to say thanks to the city for hearing me speak. And I'd also think it's important to acknowledge that the city was able to bring other units in the city up to market median, and we definitely think that's good and important. The city also paid for a market survey for the libraries, and it was shown that San Mateo Public Library workers are paid 10% under market median, and we feel that we were perhaps not promised, but we expected that we would be brought up to market median, and I would say that we're going to be very disappointed if that is not true. I would also like to say that given all the financial uncertainty that we keep discussing within the city with the vehicle licensing fee, which fortunately it looks like we're going to be getting some money, and other things that are coming up, that it seems like having a 1-year contract would make sense, and then we could start bargaining with PW, and it would be a single unit. And I think that would also save the city money, because you wouldn't have to pay a negotiator for 2 years in a row. And we would be in line with many other cities who negotiate as one city, one contract. And again, thank you very much for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Anna Liu, followed by Mary Kwan and Kevin Simpson.
My last name is Chow. It's my horrible writing.
Oh, thank you.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Anna Chow, and I have worked in the library for 33 years. Tonight, I'm here in support of my coworkers. Last year, the city and city council committed to bring employee salaries up to the market median. Why is the city not honoring that commitment for library staff while providing market median salaries to employees in other departments? Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Mary Kwan, followed by Kevin Simpson and Mei Lee.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Mary Kwan. I work for the city for 35 years. I'm here tonight to ask you to support fair pay for our library staff and to bring their compensation to market median. Libraries are one of the most valued services that our city provides. Every day, library staff support literacy, education, technology access, job seekers, seniors, and families. They serve residents from every background and contribute directly to the quality of life in our community. They've been a constant presence through economic downturns, technological changes, and community challenges. Yet, despite our important role, library employees are being paid below the standard. The library is also a relatively small and represents only a small portion of the city's overall budget. Bringing library employees to the market median would have a limited budget impact, but a significant impact on fairness and morale. Fair pay is more than just retaining staff. It is about respect. It is about recognizing experience, institutional knowledge, and years of service. It is about ensuring that the people who have invested so much time in our community can continue to live here and build their lives here. I respectfully urge the council to support bringing library staff compensation to the market median. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Kevin Simpson, followed by May Lee, and our final speaker in chambers, Jordan Grimes.
Thank you, Honorable Council. As a former union library worker, I want to thank the previous speaker for what she had to say. That was a long time in my past, but some things never leave you, and the things I learned working in the library have stayed with me and helped me my entire life. For open comment, I usually like to highlight things that overarch any of the current business that's on the agenda. We're developing a habit in the city of relitigating every issue week after week after week. No decision ever seems to be final. We constantly seem to be bringing agenda items forward to reconsider decisions that were made in the past. And I hope that you 5 council members will think about how we can move forward on the important business that lies before us, rather than constantly having to mobilize our armies to come in here and relitigate. An example is this proposal that was made a month ago to widen Humboldt Street by taking out the curb lawns. So I rode my bike down both lines of the affected blocks, and I did a little counting. Such a project would remove 122 trees and keep us from planting new trees in places where residents are already waiting for the city tree program. You get like 1 tree a year, and it takes months to get one. It would require cutting and regrading about 157 driveways. 1 or 2 dozen front fences of residents or properties, like the schools, would be ripped out and have to be moved. 100+ utility poles and all the utilities that ride on them, the dozens of services or a handful of services that ride on them, would have to be replaced, reinstalled, moved into residents' yards. Multiple city traffic signal poles would have to be relocated. All of the Cal Water meters that lie in the tree curb strips would have to be dug up and relocated, and all that work would have to be done under the street. We'd probably have to recrown the street. We would have to move the fences for the high school, as I said, and the brand new sidewalk leading out from the brand new middle school that just is nearing completion would have to be partially demolished and reconstructed to fit into this new streetscape. This doesn't even touch things like ripping out all the curb bulb outs and all the other effects. Someone brings up a crazy idea, and I hope you're not all contemplating asking our already overburdened public works organization to go and pursue this crazy idea just so we can kick the can down the road and leave a decision open for constant re-argument. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker will be May Lee, followed by Jordan Grimes.
Hello, this is May. Thank you. So I previously shared some, thank you. I previously shared a lot of information, kind of abnormal situations. So basically, all my previously findings, including burned trees, I just happened brought some samples. You guys can take a look, the real ones. And also high elevated radio frequency detected. And also deflectors, such as deflectors installed on the 7 street lights in the neighborhood. And mysterious common symptoms, maybe now I learned the word called Havana syndrome among family members and neighbors. So basically lead me to believe that we have been experiencing ongoing biological experiments without knowing it, including biosensing, neurological experiments, human augmentations, and synthetic telepathy, etc., via method called remote implants, wireless drugging, it's kind of crazy, free space optical data communications, etc. So micro-nano motors inside the nanosensors can convert external energy into mechanical movements, meaning can move inside our body and bloodstream, such as light, the external source, including LED lights, magnetic field, and also ultrasound. So based on both physical and environmental symptoms, I believe our neighborhood is not the only location. So not only the general public need a proper diagnosis for the nanosensors in our bodies and brains without knowing it, we also need to monitor environmental factors such as light, elevated radio frequency, etc., like I detected after my longtime neighbor shared her symptoms with me in 2022. So there are many people sharing their knowledge and experience basically related to this subject. And their name, such as Jesse Beltran, retired fireman, Karen Stewart, a longtime, almost 30-year NSA employee, her topic on FBI fusion centers, for example. I don't have deeper knowledge about that. And also Dr. Joanna Moncreff, Moncreff.
Thank you. Thank you,
So
May.
you can search online,
Thank
and there are a
you.
lot of resources.
Thank you. And our final speaker in chambers will be Jordan Grimes.
Good evening, Council. There were some pretty ugly things said in the special session earlier this evening, both on and off the dais, and I'd like to take a few moments to address them directly. There are times when I come up here and I say that I'm going to be brief. This will not be one of them. I think what we are seeing right now in this city is a fundamental breakdown in terms of what reality actually is. This is happening at the national level, quite obviously, but I think now it's pretty clearly happening at the local level as well. And it stems from the fact that, quite simply, disagreement and disrespect are not the same thing, but there seems to be genuine conflation of the two. Commissioner Patel has been eminently respectful to the body politic during her tenure on the Planning Commission. She has conducted herself in a way that, quite frankly, every civil servant should. But she has at times voiced significant disagreement and concerns with public positions, as is her job as a commissioner, with which people who have diametrically opposed policy positions have taken umbrage. There is no such thing as an unbiased candidate, just flat out. I know people are calling for that. That's not something that exists. We all bring our opinions, our lived experiences with us wherever we go. The reality is that we are a divided city when it comes to how to grow. We have been back to the days of Measure H in 1990, which passed 52 to 48. The notion that there is some unicorn of a candidate who will please everyone is just absurd. The most frustrating trend that I think I've seen from those opposing Commissioner Patel is who and what constitutes a member of the community and what constitutes representation. You heard claims earlier this evening from numerous people that Commissioner Patel does not represent the community. You heard a council member claim to oppose her reappointment for the same reason. And this leads me to my greatest concern with civic discourse right now. My family has been in this city for more than 70 years. My great-grandparents fled pogroms in Ukraine and came to New York City for a better life. Their children chose to come to San Mateo for the same reason. And they were able to do so because at one time we built enough housing to actually satisfy the demand for all the people who want to live here. I support Seema's reappointment, as did hundreds of others. So my question is this: am I not a member of this community? This community that raised me, this community that I love so much, and that genuinely hurts me to see the discourse and the dialogue and the othering. It's beyond. Do we not truly represent the community? We are headed down a disturbing path here, and I just want to encourage the council to reject that and to embrace all of us as true members of the community.
Thank you. And our final speaker on general public comment will be Sean Lee. Sean, please unmute your mic. Sean, at this time, please go ahead and unmute your mic. We'll give you just a few more moments to do so.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kelly, and I've been working for the city of San Mateo for 28 years. I'm here today to express my concern regarding the recent contract proposal. The city emphasizes values such as working as one organization, continuous improvement, and recognizing the contributions of its employees. As library staff, we take these principles seriously and demonstrate them every day through the services we provide to residents, students, families, seniors, and the broader community. However, the salary proposal currently on the table does not reflect those values. Library employees continue to fall behind comparable libraries in the region, and the proposed compensations does not meet the market median. While the city acknowledges the importance of our work, that recognition is not reflected in the wages being offered. We are asking a simple question. If the city truly values the work of library employees and expect us to contribute as equal partners within the organization, why are library staff consistently left behind when it comes to compensation? Competitive salaries are not only a matter of fairness, they are essential for retaining experienced employees, attracting qualified candidates, and maintaining a high-quality services that our community expects and deserves. The city's commitment to its values should be demonstrated through action, including a compensation package that reflects market standards and recognizes the value library staff bring to the organization. We respectfully urge the city to honor its commitment to its employees by offering a salary proposal that meets market standards and acknowledges the vital role library staff play in the serving our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Mayor Lorraine, that concludes general public comment.
Thank you very much, and thank you to those who gave public comment. At this time, I'll close public comment for general public comment, and we will continue to our next item of business. This is item 24, a tracking survey result for the potential sales tax measure for November 2026. This is an informational item. We have Senior Management Analyst Zach Rita here for us to give a presentation, as well as Barry Barnes with Team Civics. And I believe Dr. McClarney is perhaps joining us virtually.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thank you. My name is Zach Rada, Senior Management Analyst with the City Manager's Office, and we're joined virtually tonight by Dr. Timothy McClarney, President of True North Research, and also by Barry Barnes alongside me, partner of Team Civics. And we're here to provide an informational update on tracking survey results for a potential sales tax measure for the November 2026 election. So our agenda for tonight will provide a little bit of a background, and then Dr. McClarney will provide an update on the sales tax tracking survey results. And then I will briefly touch on our community engagement efforts, and then Barry will finish us off with some next steps. So just want to lay out how we got to where we are today. So in the summer of 2025, we had a budget, the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, adopted with a projected $12 million deficit. That increased to $14 million when it turned out that the VLF in lieu fees did not come in as high as anticipated from the state. And at that time, we also saw that our 10-year forecast for our budget showed a structural deficit where the expenses were coming in at a higher level than the revenues over a 10-year period. And so because of this, council directed staff to explore a potential revenue-seeking measure for the November 2026 election. That was in August. And then at that time, we brought on True North Research, and we conducted a poll that explored a potential sales tax and general obligation bond for the November election in 2026. We provided the polling results in January, and at that time, council directed staff to continue exploring the potential sales tax measure, but not the general obligation bond, primarily because the bond requires a 2/3 voter approval, whereas the sales tax is at that 50% plus one. So it was polling in a better place at that time. And since then, with the direction in January, staff has done a lot of educating and informing the community, and True North Research has conducted a second poll. And I will turn it over to Dr. McLarney now to provide an update on that poll.
Thank you, Zach, and good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Dr. Tim McLarney, President of True North Research. Tonight's PowerPoint covers the highlights of the tracking survey that we recently conducted. As Zach mentioned, that we've did a baseline survey in late 2025, and the sales tax measure looked feasible. A lot has occurred in the world and domestically since that point, and not the least of which is in February, went to war in Iran that created some spiking fuel prices, consumer sentiment declines, et cetera. And so the idea behind the tracking poll is to be able to take an up-to-date snapshot of where voters' sentiment is related to a potential sales tax measure for November. So you have that information as council as you move forward. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the results, helpful to review the purpose and the methodology. We're really trying to address the three bullets you see here with this tracking survey. One, to give an up-to-date look at voter sentiment regarding a potential sales tax for the November ballot that reflects the current environment, everything that's happened between late last year and now. If we see feasibility, the survey allows us to understand how you might go about structuring a measure in a way that is consistent with the type of measure that your community is interested in supporting. And it's also an opportunity for us to gather information that can help in sort of guiding future communications and outreach as it relates to this potential measure. Next slide, please. In terms of the methodology, we use the same methodology here that we use for the baseline survey, as well as that we always use when we're looking at a potential revenue measure. The first thing that we want to make sure is that we have a sample of voters who are representative of the likely voter universe for the election we're considering. In this case, we're thinking about this upcoming November 2026 election. So we use stratified and clustered random sampling to choose a sample that matches the profile of that likely November universe on all the dimensions that we know tend to drive how voters behave when it comes to tax measures. Once we pulled our sample, we used 3 different recruiting methods: email, text, and telephone. Folks had the option to take it online as well as by telephone, whichever was their preference, as well as in English and Spanish. Our data collection window was mid-May. So these results are within a month of today, and they reflect a lot of the sort of the headwinds that were happening in sort of the April and March timeframe with respect to fuel prices and consumer sentiment. And so to the extent that any of those concerns were top of mind for voters, the good news is that's baked into the results that we'll see here. In total, we had 689 completed interviews, and with a random sample of that size, we have estimates with a margin of error due to sampling of plus or minus 3.7% at the 95% confidence level. So what that means is we can be 95% confident that the results I'll be sharing with you tonight are within 3.7% of what we would have found had we spoken with all of your likely November voters. Next slide, please. So we like to open up our revenue measure surveys with some warm-up questions that get people kind of into the groove of taking the survey, thinking about their local community. And so the first of these, we simply ask them to rate the overall quality of life in the city of San Mateo on the scale of excellent, good, fair, poor, or very poor. As you can see here, residents of San Mateo appreciate the community and the quality of life in which they live. We had 85% rate the quality of life as either excellent or good. This is a good thing. We tend to find that voters who have a high opinion of the quality of life in their community, as well as a city's performance in providing municipal services, those are the voters who tend to also support these type of revenue measures that are designed to sort of maintain the quality of life and the quality of services that they've grown accustomed to receiving. Next slide, please. So after the rating of the quality of life in the community, we also went on to ask our residents if the city government could change one thing to make San Mateo a better place to live, what change would you like to see? This is an open-ended question. They could tell us in their own words what came to mind. We went back and reviewed those verbatim responses and then grouped them into the categories that you see here. And so you see the top of the list, limiting growth and preserving open space and providing more affordable housing were the number 1 and number 2 items respectively, followed by reducing traffic congestion and improving and maintaining roads as a specific. You also see that you've got about 9% who mentioned nothing came to mind, right? And you also have another 5% a little further down where they said no changes are needed, everything's fine. And so that really reflects a voter who there's just no burning issue for them. They'd like to sort of change about the community. Next slide, please. And then the final warm-up question we asked individuals, generally speaking, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the job the city of San Mateo is doing to provide municipal services? Because we are asking about the city's performance in general, we're not referencing, streets and roads or parks or public safety. This can be thought of as an overall performance rating for the city. And you can see here that in the tracking survey, we had 80% of respondents say that they are satisfied with the city's efforts to provide municipal services. You've got about 15% are dissatisfied, the rest unsure. I get to ask this question for a lot of cities throughout the state and have done so for 20 plus years. In today's climate, if you're in the 80% bracket, anywhere in there, you're in that top bracket. That's about as high as these scores get. I have some communities that I work with where their scores are in the 40s. So here again, this is a positive thing. We tend to find that voters, the better the job they feel you're doing in providing municipal services, the more likely they are to support a revenue measure like the sales tax we'll be considering. Next slide, please. Okay, so after those warm-up questions, we get right down to business, what we call the initial ballot test. And the idea here is before we get any deeper into this discussion with a respondent, start talking in more detail about how the funds could be spent, as well as presenting arguments pro and con related to this proposal. We want to present to respondents a mock-up of what we think that 75-word ballot statement could look like and get their reaction. It's a really good gauge of where your voters are at on the natural with respect to this proposal. Shown here is the ballot language we tested for a 1/4 cent general sales tax measure. And on the next slide are the results. So at the initial ballot test, we had 58% of respondents tell us they would support this proposal. You had 33% oppose and the rest unsure. So in the state of California, for a general sales tax to be passed, you need a simple majority or 50% plus 1. So we're sitting about 8 points north of that simple majority threshold at this initial ballot test. It's also worth noting that this is about 5 points higher than where we were at the initial ballot test in the baseline survey. So despite the fact that the general economic climate has deteriorated somewhat between late November and now, the fact that we've fine-tuned this ballot proposal to align better with voters' priorities, and the city has done some outreach and education related to this, we're sitting actually higher than we were in November of 2025. So after the initial ballot test, we get to the projects and services section of the survey. Here is where we're trying to do two things. One, we're starting to educate this respondent more about what this measure would accomplish by unpacking it into a variety of different sort of projects and potential uses of the funds. And so that way they're learning more about the measure. The other thing it allows us to do is understand of all the ways that you could spend these general fund revenues, how do voters feel about each of those services or projects, and which of these are their priorities. When you look at this list, what you tend to find at the top of the list is a combination of public works and public safety. And that, by the way, is very typical of what we see when we're doing these types of measures for other cities around the state. So, keeping streets and sidewalks and parks and infrastructure, communities, facilities safe, clean, and well maintained, providing quick response to 911 emergencies, fire protection, paramedic, fixing potholes, right, improving traffic congestion. These are the top priorities, but everything on this list that we tested had at least 2/3 of voters say that they would favor spending some of the money on that item. Next slide, please. So if you as a council decide to move forward with a November measure, there will be an election cycle. And during that election cycle, there will be some discussion and debate in the community about this proposal, right? You'll have advocates out there talking to friends and neighbors about why this is needed and why they should vote yes. You might also get some critics. People step up, say it's a terrible idea, shouldn't be doing it, and here's why. For this survey to be a reliable gauge of the feasibility of the sales tax measure, we need to simulate that discussion and debate in the space of the interview, so we have a good understanding not only of where your voters are at on the natural, which was that initial ballot test, but what happens after they hear positives and what happens after they hear negatives. So shown here are the positive arguments we test. You can see here that there's a lot of positive arguments that get traction. The one at the very top, though, is interesting because all it is kind of a opening voters' eyes as to the magnitude of the infrastructure that you as a city have to take care of, right? You maintain 200 miles of streets, 130 miles of storm drains, 31 parks. Most residents, if you ask them, how many miles of streets you have in the community, they wouldn't say 200, they'd say something far less. So the neat thing about that argument is you're just using basic facts about the facilities that you need to take care of, and that alone makes it the most convincing argument in favor of this proposal. So at this point in the poll now, voters have heard more about this proposal than they did at the initial ballot test. We had a chance to talk in more detail about the services that could be funded. We conveyed positive arguments. And so on the next slide, we go to what we call the interim ballot test. We present the same 75-word ballot statement, say, now that you've heard a bit more, where do you stand? Support at this point checks in at 59%. So we're up 1 point from the initial ballot test. We're about 9 points north of that simple majority that's required for passage. And then on the next slide, we get to the negatives. And the idea behind the negatives is I want to pepper a respondent with a series of opposition arguments, right? The kind of arguments you would expect to hear from a critic of this measure, because we want to know if you move forward, should you get opposition and should they be effective at getting their message out? How might that ultimately impact voter support for this proposal? So shown here are the negative arguments we tested. You can see as you read down through them, we're not pulling our punches. We're kind of coming at this from every what we think to be sort of effective angle. Hitting on cost of living, hitting on affordability, hitting on these things with the idea of let's figure out, how much support we can carve off this proposal based on these negatives. And so, and the answer to that is on the next page. And that's the final ballot test. So after the negatives, we present that same 75-word ballot statement one more time. Say, now that you've heard a bit more, where do you stand? You can see at the final ballot test on the heels of those negatives, it cools support down for this measure about 5 points from where we were at the interim ballot test. So we go from 59% to 54%, but we're still landing about 4 points north of that simple majority that's required for passage. So every slide up to this point has been talking about that potential sales tax measure. We also tested on the next slide another measure related to the charter amendment. So this measure would update and basically streamline the city's charter to reflect the transition to district elections that has already occurred, as you know, allow additional time to fill city council vacancies, allow the date and start time of the council meetings to be specified by resolution, and a couple other sort of administrative items. So we presented this ballot statement to voters to see where they stand. You can see that about a little over half, 51%, say they would support that proposal. You got about 20% who say they would oppose, and you have a pretty big chunk here, more than a quarter, who say not sure, prefer not to answer, right? So they're looking at this statement, they just kind of don't know where they land on it. This is not uncommon for charter amendments, right? People kind of know what they're dealing with when they look at sales tax measures or bond measures. When you get to these charter amendment things, it tends to be a little bit in the weeds for the average voter. And for many of them, they just, they're not sure where to land on it. And oftentimes those voters, frankly, when you get to the actual ballot, they'll often skip that measure unless they want to do a little homework to figure out where they land on it. So in which case, if you did that, you would want to recalculate those percentages among those with an opinion. And obviously among those with an opinion, it's, better than 2 to 1 here in favor of the charter amendment. So final slide for me is key conclusions. So what does all this mean in terms of the data? So I'm going to circle back to that overarching question I mentioned at the outset as the main motivator for why you do this research, which is to understand, is it feasible? Meaning if you as a council were to choose to place this measure on the November ballot, does it have a reasonable chance of success? I think the answer is clearly yes. We do see a path to feasibility, but it's important to note that it will require robust outreach and communications moving forward. So why the yes part? That is everything you see there under the positive signs. We know voters have a high opinion of the community in which they live. They have a high opinion and value the services that they receive from the city. They also see some room for improvements. They would like to obviously sustain service levels at least their current levels. We saw that on the natural with just the 75 words ballot statement, we had 58% support. Everything in terms of projects we tested and services were popular. We had positive arguments that resonate. And importantly, that last bullet there, every time we presented that same 75-word ballot statement and said, now that you've heard a bit more, where do you stand? Each one of those times we were above that simple majority threshold that's required for passage. So when you see that kind of those pieces in place, those are the kind of pieces that we want to see in place for a measure to be feasible. That said, it's also important to keep in mind that there were some challenges that come out of the polling, and also that external factors will play a role in the outcome. We did see some receptiveness to those opposition arguments. They cooled us down about 5 points, so we want to be mindful of that. And, you know, the fact of the matter is we're currently in and have been in, you know, what is a challenging economic environment. You know, we've had the war, spiking fuel prices, tariffs, inflation, consumer sentiment at all-time record low. You know, this is not new since our polling. This was there when we were doing our polling. And so in some ways we polled in probably one of the more challenging environments over the last 2 years. But nevertheless, it's important to keep in mind as you structure a measure and move forward that, you know, anytime that you're in these sort of challenging both economic and political environments, you know, these kind of things can start to shape, you know, the environment that you'll ultimately place your measure in. And so again, we've got encouraging poll results given that we're already polling in that environment. But we want to keep that in mind as we move forward. So that's the end of my slides. I believe I'm going to be kicking it back to Zach at this point.
Thank you, Dr. McClarney. Just transitioning now to the education and information work that staff has done since about February of this year. As you just heard, we've conducted statistically reliable surveys. This was the second one, conducted via phone, text message, and web in English and Spanish. We have sent out 2 informational mailers to all residents, and we have an additional postcard that should be going out before July 20th. We've had over a dozen community meetings, and we plan to hold quite a few more. And you can find out more information about those meetings on our dedicated bilingual informational webpage. If you go to cityofsanmateo.org/ballot measure, you can find upcoming meeting dates and locations, FAQ page, and a lot more information, including the informational mailers in Spanish there as well. So that is an overview of our community engagement efforts to date. And now I'll pass it to Barry to finish us off with the last 2 slides.
Thanks, Zach. Good evening, Council. So as you'll note here, this is the process that we've undergone leading up to today. So as you see, the first step is the testing of the options, which included the 2 voter surveys. As Dr. McClarney mentioned, you had one earlier in the year, as well as beginning to look at the election timing, the tax rate, the landscape, all of these important questions that Tim just went through. Then, as Zach just mentioned, the second phase is vetting the idea, the concept in the community with 2 pieces of direct mail that have already gone out. We've worked through the city website and other existing communications, communicating with audiences in the community to get feedback, refine the proposal, and just determine if the community is ready for it. The survey does a very good job of telling us, you know, okay, as you saw, we started 58, we go to 59, it comes down to 54 after the negatives. But as you all know, as elected officials and as staff knows from interacting, a lot of times the important parts are what you hear out in the community and what you hear from stakeholders and what you hear from the folks who would be activated in a measure like this. So it's really a 2-step process. And as we sit here today, you know, basically making the transition that if the council decides that you would like us to come back on July 20th with a resolution for adoption to place it on the ballot, there's a few more steps that would be involved in terms of finalizing the ballot resolution. That's the big, long document we would work with the city attorney and staff on. Looking at the 75-word ballot question, as Tim mentioned, the question we tested got 58%. I'm not sure there are many ways we can improve upon that, but we'll certainly take another look at it. But that is again, I just want to take 1 second to underline the point that Tim made, which is an 80% satisfaction rating in a community really is unheard of. I mean, that is we work with many cities as well, some with Tim, some not with Tim, but 40s are not uncommon. 50s are happy in a lot of cases. And so to have in a community as diverse as San Mateo, to have a satisfaction rate and the 80% is really very much unheard of and something you all should be very proud of. And I think that the numbers reflect that. That's, we do see that when voters are pleased with the services they're receiving, with their representation, they're very open to, helping the city address its future needs. So, again, as mentioned, the final date is 88 days prior to the election for when the council would need to act to place it on the ballot. That is the first Friday in August, which is a couple weeks after that July 20th date. Next slide. And then in terms of immediate, as mentioned, I know there's continued outreach going on. We have a third mailer in the sequence, which would go out prior to the July 20th meeting to alert the community that you all would be considering placement of the measure on that ballot. There are other items that we're working on with staff, including monitoring the county implementation of AB 1416, which is, we could talk if you had any questions, but it basically is the inclusion of organizations listed either in favor or against the measure. That's one thing we're monitoring. The 20th, as we mentioned. And then, of course, as with all ballot measures, after the council votes in July, any future communication and particularly any future advocacy would need to be by an independent campaign committee. But happy to answer any questions you have about how we got here or the process where we are.
Thank you all for your presentations. And at this time, I'll open the item for public comment. If anyone in chambers wishes to speak or online, you may indicate you would like to do so. City Clerk, let us know.
Thank you, Mayor Lorraine. As mentioned, this is an opportunity for public comment, both in person and chambers. If you wish to speak on this item, please provide me a request to speak slip. If you're participating in our virtual environment, please raise your hand now. I will give you just a few moments to do so. Mayor Lorraine, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Okay, I will close public comment, bring it back to the dais, and ask if council members have questions or feedback. Council members, Fiorko-Guditsky.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I think the survey really confirms what I've been hearing from residents across San Mateo. People want safe streets, fast emergency response, well-maintained parks, and a city that really remains financially stable. And I think our focus should continue to be on making sure that we have a sustainable plan in place and that we protect those essential services. And so just want to reiterate my support. I did send over several questions, so thank you for taking time through your presentation to kind of answer and address those for the public. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Thank you to the mayor, and thank you both Tim and Barry and Zach. So a couple just questions. How do people consider, this is probably for Tim, how do people consider local versus state and federal taxes? How do they think about it?
Yeah, so typically what we find is that, the closer to home that a revenue measure is and can guarantee that the funds would be spent there, the more likely a voter is to support this. So when you think about statewide measures versus sort of regional measures versus county measures versus local measures like your city, push come to shove, voters are generally going to be more likely to support a local measure because they have confidence that those dollars are going to stay local, right? One of the challenges when you have any sort of regional measure is there's always this sort of nagging doubt that some voters will have that, okay, I'm going to raise my taxes locally, but the benefits are going to be spent, somewhere else in the region, not necessarily where I live and work and play. And so typically the local measures are better received.
So thank you for that. So that would tend to make me think that if we were to do education or if we decided to put something on the ballot, that really focusing on the fact that this is a local initiative would be a good thing to do.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you. And then secondly, how do people think about 911? Because you've got the number. It can mean everything from, oh my God, my spouse is having a heart attack, or my house is on fire, or there's somebody breaking in, or what do you see?
Well, I mean, I think the nice thing about 911 emergency response is, regardless of whether it's a heart attack or somebody breaking in or your house is on fire, right? It's an emergency. People understand 911, and what it means is, when you're in that situation, when you're making that phone call, it means you need somebody to come help you and you need it fast, right? And that's what voters, when they see that in a measure where they understand that the measure is going to help fund those things, they can connect those dots and understand that this is for emergency services, and it can come in a variety of stripes, right? But all of them are important.
Right. So our emergency responders, our fire, our police, they're all really in a unified group that people are thinking about because it's the services they're providing together.
Yep.
Okay. Great. That's helpful. And it was interesting in terms of why people were negative. It made sense. The top one was all about inflation, price hikes, and everything we hear every day. But I was surprised that I don't know what they're going to do with the money wasn't higher, because in my experience, that typically is higher up on the scale.
So when you look at the reasons why, if someone says no, and I didn't have this slide in the deck, but if someone says no or not sure at the initial ballot test, and we give them an opportunity to say why, you tend to see a combination of two things. One, taxes are already too high. That's a very common answer, right? Or concerns about, government misuse of funds. Typically, that second option there I just mentioned, the misuse of funds, that is not grounded in anything specific. In other words, there's no evidence behind that opinion. It's just we're all kind of taught as good Americans not to trust government, right? And there is a narrative out there that some folks believe in, that all government is wasteful, right? That if it's the government, they're inefficient. And so you'll get some people saying these things as reasons for why they are no or not sure. I can promise you, though, that not everybody believes that. And the reason for that is you wouldn't be sitting at 58% natural support for a local sales tax measure if voters in general felt like you're not doing a good job with the money you already have.
Okay.
I was just going to add to that really quickly that, if looking back at the negatives, a couple of them were over 70% and one at 60% of agreement, but people were still settling between 55 and 58% support. So there's a chunk of voters who still say, have concerns, but then when read the question again, say, well, yep, that was a concern, but I still want to support the measure. So and that's not atypical. We do see that. Sometimes you'll ask people, will you oppose any tax measure? And sometimes you'll see 60% of the people say yes, but then the measure get 55%. So there's some fluidity there.
Okay, great. And then I would be remiss, I know of one date that I want to promote, June 22nd at the main library in the Oak Room at 6 to 7:30 is going to be one of those educational opportunities. So I would encourage anyone who is interested in learning more to attend, because this is very important. And I know there are other dates that we should share as well with the public. But thank you very much to all of you. I think this is very, very good information. And I look forward to the next steps.
Thank you, Councilmember. And maybe I can just take that lead and ask the city staff if they happen to have the other dates handy or
in my head,
other opportunities.
I'll be attending all of them. So first meeting will be, these are 5 district town halls, but we are actually, as you heard, doing a road show going throughout the community. But we'll start kicking this off with District 2 on Tuesday, June 17th, 6 p.m. at the Wednesday, the 17th at the King Center. And that'll be with Deputy Mayor Fernandez. Then we have the 22nd, which is District 1 at the library, 6 p.m. Then we have the 23rd at the police station with our council member Rob Newsom at 6 p.m. And then we have the 25th at 6 p.m. at our wastewater treatment plant with Councilmember Swerko Goditsky. And then June 29th, we're closing our town halls at Fire Station 27 in District 5, and that's at 6 p.m. as well.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Fernandez.
I was just going to name my town hall, so all done. Thank you.
And if I can just say that anyone can go to any of these, even though they're district focused. If you happen to be in some place and it's not your district, come anyhow, please.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other, Councilmember Newsom?
Thank you, through the mayor. Couple questions. The first is, when we just did this follow-up review, how much did we ask people about their concerns about other and competing tax measures on this ballot?
Mm-hmm. Tim, you want to take that one first, or you want
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So, in general, what we tend to find is when it comes to competing measures, and this sort of gets to the comment that was or the question that was asked earlier about local versus regional measures and other things. It's almost always a case that with consolidated elections that you are not going to be the only thing on the ballot, right? There are going to be other measures on the ballot that will also be, asking for a possible tax increase or bond or what have you. What we tend to find is that voters are pretty good about treating these independently, considering them independently, especially if, you've got in one case a bond for a school district, in another case it's a sales tax for a city, in another case it might be a sales tax for a regional transportation plan. They kind of consider each one on its own. The one exception to that tends to be when you have multiple measures on the ballot that seemingly have overlapping purposes. So for example, if you have a regional sales tax for transportation, and then meanwhile, the state of California has a transportation bond on the same ballot that purports to do many of the same things, that can create some confusion, some problems, and some competition because voters sort of see these things as overlapping in purpose. And we know this in part because, we do studies where we will do what's called a crowded ballot simulation in the front, where for some voters, we will share with them different measures that'll be on the ballot before they get to the measure for a particular agency that we're interested in. The other voters, we skip right by that. And what you find is the answers tend not to be impacted unless, again, one of those other measures overlaps with the measure that we're looking at for a particular agency. So in the poll, though, we did have some negatives that we tested around this concept, and I can pull up the one here on my end and read it to you here. Hold on one second. Where we kind of wanted to get at this as part of a negative, right? That you're not the only one on the ballot. And so it was everyone is coming after us for tax increases, including state and county taxes, school bonds, and other taxes that will be on the ballot later this year. Enough is enough. We can't afford to keep raising our taxes. So we had a negative about this issue, right? That there's all these other measures that'll be on the ballot. And it gets some traction, but as you saw, that argument, along with all the other negatives, collectively cooled down support about 5 points between the interim and the final ballot test.
Thank you. Well, overall, I support this initiative, and I will be supporting it. I guess my other two questions were: I was a little surprised by the charter amendment proposed ballot issue. Did we test that previously, and has that number dropped? Because I think you've said that the approval right now is coming in at only 51.4%. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we have not tested that before. We've talked about it before, but we have not tested it. You are correct that it's it's like 51% support, but that doesn't mean 49% opposition. As you saw, it's like 51% support, about 20% opposition, and there's a big chunk of voters who just don't know, right? They don't know enough about it. And this is not uncommon because, these other types of measures like the sales tax measure we're talking about, voters are kind of used to seeing these. They understand revenue measures. When you get kind of a one-off that seems real administrative, right? Like a charter amendment, oftentimes people are like, I don't know quite how to feel about this. And I don't know that if I'm going to do the research to find out. Right. And so, oftentimes if they're just not sure, they won't vote. They'll just skip it. And so what that then happens is you wind up recalculating your percentages among those who have an opinion and vote. And when you do that, your 51% is going to shoot up to 65%, right?
Okay, good. I mean, I'm glad to hear that. That was kind of a concern of mine. As far as if, worst case scenario, that charter amendment were to fail, what would the impact be on how we continue to operate? And I guess I'd direct this to the city attorney. Thank you.
There would not be any real impact on the way we continue to operate. I mean, we've made the transition to district elections and pursuant to state law, and that would just remain the case. I mean, a lot of these amendments are, as Dr. McClarney noted, they're administrative in nature. They're designed to provide some flexibility or to remove outdated provisions of the charter. So it wouldn't have a significant impact on city operations. Really, city operations would continue exactly as they stand today.
Cool. So we wouldn't be returning to at-large elections.
No.
Everything would stay continually running the way it has been. And we just, it sounds like, need to do a better job of cleaning up this amendment. Is that?
Well, I mean, the language, is ultimately up to the council, but maybe the ballot question could be simplified a little bit. So we'll work on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you for those questions and input. And I will just thank my fellow council members for asking a number of questions and thank the city for its effort here alongside our guests. I appreciate that we polled again in May to ensure that we have recent data given all that's transpired in the year to date. And I look forward to learning more in the outreach to come. So with that, I think I will thank those who presented and close this item and move on to our next item. Item 25, a new multifamily residential development for approval. This is a public hearing related to the development application at 220 West 20th Avenue. And with us to present is contract planner Stephanie Davis and planning manager Joanna Winter. Thank you for being here.
There we go. So good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Stephanie Davis. I am a contract principal planner with the Community Development Department. Tonight, you are being asked to consider adopting a resolution for approval of a new 232-unit residential building located at 220 West 20th Avenue. So a quick overview of my presentation tonight. So I'll begin by providing background of the proposed project, then getting into an overview of applicable codes, both at the local and state level for the project, followed by a summary of prior Planning Commission discussion and action, and concluding with the staff recommendation. We do have the city's Department of Public Works staff also available virtually online who can assist in answering any questions that the council or public may have following my presentation or during at the council's purview. And I do believe that the applicant has a presentation, brief one, following mine as well. Okay, so beginning with some project history, the applicant first submitted a preliminary application under Senate Bill 330 in April of last year. That application was deemed complete in July of 2025. So part of the applicant's early outreach efforts included their first required neighborhood meeting in May of 2025, in which there was about 35 neighbors that attended. At that meeting, there was a series of concerns and questions expressed. These included topics related to building design, traffic and circulation issues. From June of 2025 until February of this year, the applicant did hold 12 additional follow-up meetings directly with various neighbors to continue the conversations in working to try to understand better and attempting also to address some of the concerns that they heard at these meetings. This resulted in several project redesign efforts that have been incorporated into the plan set that you are being asked to consider this evening. So these graphics here attempt to illustrate the project site as well as the surrounding neighbors. So beginning with the project site, it's a little over 1.5 acres in area. It's highlighted there in the red square, just a few blocks to the east here at City Hall. The project site itself does contain a 23-foot wide common area along its western property line. This common area currently serves and will continue to serve as an emergency vehicle access, both for the project site and for the existing residential development to the rear, called the Lark Apartments. Photo of the Lark is at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The other photos on the right-hand side of the screen show existing neighbors. These include the Corta Bella residential building to the left of the property, the Shriners facility to the right or directly across Elkhorn Court, and an existing one-story office building directly across the street on West 20th Avenue. The site is located within half a mile of the Hayward Park Caltrain station, circled in yellow on the upper right-hand side of the image to the left of the slide. Okay, getting into a description of the proposed project itself. So the proposal is to construct a new 7-story 357,000 square foot residential building, again containing 232 new rental units. Of these 232 units, 31 of them are proposed as below market rate or BMR housing units. 23 of those are proposed to be dedicated to households of very low income, while the remaining 8 to be dedicated to households of moderate income. Now I'm going to share some slides of renderings around all 4 sides of the building and moving into some design review discussion. So this project was reviewed against the city's objective design standards, or their ODS. And as I'll discuss a bit later in my presentation, the project does propose some waivers from both the city's ODS as well as some zoning development standards through their application of state density bonus law. So with that background, this rendering here depicts a view of the proposed building at the corner of West 20th Avenue and Elkhorn Court. The overall architectural style of the building, probably best categorized in appearance as contemporary in nature. So the West 20th Avenue elevation does create some variety with staggered massing, while also attempting to unify into its Elkhorn Court elevation through the same detailing at the decks, proposed decks, some wall materials, and the similar window proportions. Okay, moving along the front elevation at West 20th Avenue and to the left side. This left side, again, this would face the existing Corta Bella neighbors. And then at the bottom right of the slide, you can see that 23-foot wide EVA, or emergency vehicle access, I mentioned previously. That EVA area or common space, again, will continue to serve as such, but is proposed to be improved with some grasscrete and other landscaping. This has been reviewed by the fire department and deemed conditionally acceptable. So the overall massing you can see along these 2 sides of the building does include a mix of 5, 6, and 7-story elements, with that 7th story stepped back about 42 feet from the 20th Avenue line, and a 6-foot step back at the 3rd, 4th, and 5th story there on the left side facing the Corta Bella neighbors, with an 8-foot step back around the entire building for the duration of that 7th story. This rendering shows the right side of the building that faces Elkhorn Court, and then the rear of the building facing the Lark apartment neighbors. So at the first floor, towards the back side of the Elkhorn Court elevation, you can see in the bottom left of the screen is where the proposed entry to the on-site parking area is for the project. So this slide provides the overall color and material scheme for the building. So the body of the building, as you can see, is a mix of various finished materials. It's a dominance of smooth plaster and stucco finish. It does also attempt to integrate a 2-story brick base along the corner of the building at both the 20th Avenue and Elkhorn Court facades. There's wood grain metal siding along the base of the ground floor units, and a gridded window pattern of a dark bronze vinyl accented with a smooth stucco finish trim. And finally, in terms of the overall colors, the building proposes a neutral earthen tone color palette of creams, taupes, and then brown shades. So this is a bit of site orientation that I'd like to share on this slide, which shows the proposed first floor plan. Both the primary pedestrian access to the building as well as that garage access that I previously mentioned is there on the right-hand side of the screen along Elkhorn Court. The proposed vehicular access off of Elkhorn Court is as required by the city's objective design review standards. The parking garage does include a total of 277 on-site parking spaces, as well as all of their long-term bike parking. Although not shown in detail on this slide, the applicant has also proposed to voluntarily install a new crosswalk there at the corner of West 20th Avenue and Elkhorn Court. So this slide here depicts the overall open space component of the project, which includes a mix of private balconies for most of the residential units, shared courtyards at multiple levels and stories of the building, has a shared swimming pool, club rooms, a lounge, a dog run, and as you can see at the bottom right of the screen, that little red square indicates the application's proposed conceptual public art piece at the corner there of Elkhorn and West 20th Avenue. There's 63 new trees proposed to be planted, 13 of which will be street trees. And as I'll be discussing later on in my presentation, the Planning Commission did make a recommendation for the council to consider allowing some flexibility in the final street tree species to be planted. So in wrapping up the project description, this slide here provides a summary of the 232 unit breakdown. Specifically, it includes the bedroom count and level of affordability for the 31 BMR units and the remaining 201 market rate units. Moving into the entitlements, so the scope of this project does require approval of both a site plan and architectural review for consideration of the new multifamily residential development building itself, as well as a site development and planning application for the proposed removal of the 9 on-site heritage trees and the grading associated primarily for the one-level underground parking garage. So now I'll begin just briefly speaking to the various codes and regulations that are applicable to the project, both at the local and state level. So the site has a city general plan land use designation, residential medium 2, with zoning of an executive park multifamily dwelling at a high density, which this project does comply with those land uses. The project is also subject to the city's below market rate housing program, and as I mentioned, the city's adopted objective design standards. There are multiple state housing laws that this project is subject to that do provide some limitations in the city's discretion in reviewing and acting upon the project. Those 4 housing laws are the Housing Crises Act, Senate Bill 330, the Housing Accountability Act, Assembly Bill 130 regarding the CEQA, or California Environmental Quality Act component of the project, which I'll be speaking to briefly momentarily, as well as Assembly Bill 2097 related to the project's site's proximity to a major transit stop within 1/2 mile. So as I mentioned previously, the project is applying state density bonus law, which as proposed does allow the project up to a 70% density bonus increase above the otherwise standard maximum allowable density per city regulations. It would allow for reduced parking standards. It would also allow the project up to 3 concessions or deviations from other regulations of city code, as well as an unlimited amount of waivers or ability to not have to meet minimum development standards. But what the application, however, does not propose full implementation of all these allowances. Specifically, the project is proposing a 51% density bonus, given the BMR unit income distribution and unit count as the application proposes. It does not include any requests for any concessions or incentives, nor does it include any proposed reduced parking standards. As technically under AB 2097, no parking is required, again, since the site is located within 1/2 mile of a major public transit stop. And again, the project does include a list of waivers, both from the city's objective design standards and some zoning development standards, which I'll be speaking to briefly here on this slide, which summarizes what those requested waivers are. They include provisions from height, setbacks, some parking standards in terms of dimensions, some open space regulations, and some massing standards within the city's ODS. So a project transportation analysis was prepared by the applicant for this project. Given the application of Assembly Bill 130, which I'll be getting to here in a slide or two, the analysis does not include a vehicle miles traveled or VMT study. However, it does include a level of service analysis as required by the city's local transportation impact analysis guidelines. So that LOS, or level service analysis, does conclude with that the project will add the addition of 995 daily new net vehicle trips, and that all the study intersections that the study evaluated have been determined to continue to operate at acceptable levels with the addition of the project under existing conditions and project opening year conditions. However, under cumulative project conditions, which includes the project plus build out under the city's general plan, there is an intersection noted to result in an unacceptable LOS. However, the project's individual impacts, according to the traffic impact analysis, did not warrant a signal analysis. So as mentioned previously, the applicant has voluntarily proposed to install a new crosswalk at the corner of Elkhorn Court and 20th Avenue. The project also does include a transportation demand management, or TDM, program that includes a series of measures to reduce project trips from the site, determined to equate to a 26% trip reduction in vehicles. So this slide here provides estimates of all of the applicable impact fees that could be assessed for the project. A few notes on these estimates. One, these are exclusive of any credits that the project may receive for the existing building that occurs on site. And there's, I'll also just note one typographical correction for the park impact fees, not the amount noted, but more in the range of slightly over $4 million. So as it relates to the implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, so the project has been determined to be exempt from any further environmental review under AB 130 for housing projects that meet certain eligibility criteria, which this project does. Part of the AB 30 exemption process does require tribal notification, which was conducted. One tribe did outreach to the city requesting consultation, and that consultation did happen. And related conditions of approval have been integrated into the draft resolution to address any potential impacts to cultural resources. So as required by the city's municipal code, this application was considered first by the Planning Commission on May 26 at a public hearing. At that meeting, there were 5 written comments received, as well as 14 speakers who expressed a variety of comments and concerns that were specified within the staff report. At the conclusion of the Planning Commission's discussion and meeting, they took action to recommend that the City Council approve the project, and that recommendation was by unanimous vote of 5-0. The Planning Commission did provide a specific additional recommendation for the council to consider, allowing flexibility from the city's adopted street tree master plan on the final species of street trees to be planted. Excuse me. And in consultation, the applicant did agree and actually prefers for that type of flexibility should the council choose. So following the Planning Commission meeting, and given some of the concerns that were discussed and expressed at that meeting, the city did conduct a joint meeting between city staff, project applicant, and members of the Shriners facility directly across the street again on Elkhorn Court. In summary, there were 3 items of concerns discussed at this meeting related to topics of pedestrian safety, to parking, potential parking issues after the development was constructed and operating, as well as some concerns regarding disruption to the Shriners facility's existing tenants during the construction activities. And following such, the applicant did provide a list of some additional voluntary measures that they have agreed to implement to try and attempt of addressing some of these concerns. This was prepared in a written item of correspondence received after the packet was distributed for tonight's meeting. I do believe that written item listing the measures proposed to be implemented by the applicant have been shared with the council, as well as copies available for the public here at the meeting tonight. Should the council want to discuss further the Planning Commission's recommendation to allow for consideration of flexibility in the final street tree species to be planted, some draft language of such a condition of approval has been provided for consideration. That concludes my presentation, but with that, a recommendation has been provided as written here on the screen. I am happy to answer any questions that the council may have. And again, as I mentioned, there's Department of Public Works, Engineering, and Transportation staff also available virtually here to answer any questions that I may not be able to. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. And I understand the applicant may have a presentation of its own. If so, let us go ahead with that at this time, please.
Do you have the clicker? Oh. Good evening, Mayor Lorraine, Deputy Mayor Fernandez, and members of the City Council. Thank you, Stephanie, for the very thorough presentation. Thank you also to the Planning Commission for the recent unanimous recommendation of approval. Next slide. My name is Richard Norris, and I'm Vice President of Development for Summerhill Apartment Communities, also known as SHAC. In the upcoming slides, we will be detailing our planning approach, design, as well as how our plan has evolved as a result of the feedback we've received over the last year. Next slide, please. This is our project design team. We also have our full technical team available via Zoom to answer questions. Next slide. For those of you not familiar with SHAC, we are part of the Marcus Millichap family of companies based in Palo Alto. SHAC has been building communities of distinction in San Mateo County for more than 35 years. These are several of the apartment communities we've developed in the county, including the national award-winning 988 in South San Francisco. Next slide, please. I want to highlight how the planning and policy framework, as well as the existing site conditions, informed our initial planning approach for the site and how feedback from the community and staff resulted in the project before you this evening. I'll be detailing the changes made as a result of neighbor and city feedback later in the presentation as well. We first looked at the policy framework. As detailed by staff's presentation, the 5 to 7 story building is consistent with the Strive San Mateo General Plan and Measure T with the additional height afforded by the state density bonus. The project is exempt from CEQA due to AB 130. Next slide. As you can see from the varied architecture in our recent projects, we design every building specific to the existing neighborhood around it. With this in mind, we looked at the neighboring 4.5 story Cortobella condominiums and 4.5 story Lark apartments, as well as the low slung buildings along West 20th Avenue, and designed a calm residential building that follows their cues with lower massing fronting West 20th and generous setbacks throughout. Next slide. This is the site. It's one of 2 condominiums on a single parcel with the Lark on the other condominium. Our site and the Lark share ownership of the green common area on the left. The site fronts Elkhorn Court. Through designing the project, we discovered that Elkhorn Court's travelway is only 18 feet wide, less than the 20-foot minimum necessary for fire. And that's the diagram on the right there. Next slide. We've had a robust community outreach program. Interest from the Cortobella community and Shriners led to multiple meetings with both groups since our initial 2025 community meeting, including one this past Thursday with the Shriners. As you'll see later, we've made design changes in response to both groups. Next slide. And Stephanie detailed these in her presentation as well, but these are the comments we received during our community outreach that informed the changes we made to our plans. Areas of interest included traffic, parking, visibility for drivers leaving Cortobella's garage, pedestrian safety, construction noise and dust, and project design. Now our architect, Chris Hagelin with BAR Architects and Interiors, is going to walk you through the site design.
Thank you very much, Richard. Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Hagelin. I'm a principal with BAR Architects and Interiors in San Francisco. Next slide. So as Richard noted, we looked very carefully at the site as we started the project, looking at the context, the neighboring buildings, pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic, to determine how we wanted to approach the site, as well as the city's objective design standards. Next. The site plan is a few main goals that we had on the site plan was looking at vehicular circulation. So we, based on rules from the city that prohibited the vehicles coming in off West 20th, we felt it was best. One of our only options was to come in off of Elkhorn Court, which we think is better anyway because there is an existing intersection there. So you'll see the garage entry and exit on the upper right-hand part of the site. We wanted the site to be active. All of the blue is fitness, lobbies, lounge, leasing, active areas, a lot of light and air, glass into the building at that prime corner at 20th and Elkhorn. And then we wanted to hide the garage. So the garage has units on all sides. And the garage is also 1 level below grade, which we don't have a plan for, but it takes up the whole site 1 below. The next plan, it looks, the second floor looks very much like the first floor with parking with the units around it. Next slide. The third floor is where we have our podium. So we have an outdoor space with a pool, spa, areas for the residents to relax. The building is what we call a double-loaded corridor building for the most part. So there's a corridor that has units on both sides. About a third of the units face into our courtyard and about 2/3 face out into the perimeter of the property. Next slide. As the building steps up to the 6th floor, we've eliminated the units along 20th for the most part. We've also taken a bite out of the building in the lower left-hand side for a small outdoor space for the residents and also a small amenity space. Next slide. And then as we get to the top floor, the right-hand side, we've also taken a bite out of the building along Elkhorn and along West 20th. We've added another small amenity space and then a little bit larger outdoor space for the residents, including a dog park. The building also steps back on all sides, on the north side and the east and the west side. Next slide. A section through the building, these can be a little abstract, but this is cutting through the building east-west, so the Cortobella residential project on the left and Elkhorn Court on the right. So you can see that underground parking garage and then 2 levels of parking that are all in gray, and then the units stacked above that. On the left-hand side, you can see the setbacks from the existing building at Cortobella, so they range from about 50 feet all the way up to 64 feet as the building steps back, as was noted by Stephanie. On the right-hand side, the building is a little bit more straight up and down vertical, and then we do have an 8-foot setback on the 7th floor. Next. And then this is a section running north-south. So West 20th is on your right-hand side, and on the left-hand side is the Lark residential building. So on that left-hand side from the Lark, there is approximately a 50-foot setback from this new proposed building to the Lark building, and then another setback, about 5-foot setback at the 7th floor. On the right-hand side, you can see where we've really stepped the building down, as I noted earlier, along West 20th, so that the building is only 5 stories for the majority of the street. Next slide. Architecturally, I think the goal for the building was to do something that was contemporary, not modern, not trendy, but something that we felt would be timeless, that would fit into the context here, and the community would be proud of and would look great in another 30 or 40 years, hopefully. We spent a lot of time looking at the ODS and generally following them with very few exceptions. So the building has a very strong base, middle, and top. The window openings are fairly repetitive, but there's times when they're square punch openings and times where they're stitched together and more horizontal. You'll see a series of balconies on many of the units to create a nice shadow line and some depth to the units. And the bottom 2 floors at Elkhorn have been set back, and there is a small park, art park we're calling it, and the ground floors of the building are largely made out of brick. So putting our best, nicest material on the ground floor of the building. Next slide. And then moving down 20th, you're looking at what you might call the front elevation. So you can see that stepping of the building, the 5-story building for the most part, stepping up to 6 floors and 7 floors on the right. And then on the left side along the EVA, the stepping of the building at the 3rd floor, the 6th floor, and the 7th floor. Next slide. On the north elevation, it's a little hard to tell here, but that top floor is set back about 5 feet. Again, trying to create a very simple but strong base middle top to the building. We've added accents of wood, metallic wood paneling on the left and the right. We have new metal canopies across the top that have been added as part of the discussion with the neighbors in the city, and a frame around all the windows to create a nice depth to the building so it doesn't feel too flat. Next slide. Zooming in on the building a little bit, this is the corner of Elkhorn and West 20th. So you can see in this case, there's a fitness space and lobby on the ground floor. You can see the brick detailing around the building. We've done a step patterning of the brick to create a real depth to the building, and then the pilasters that come down to a base, and then the depiction of art that would be in this corner in the future. Next. Again, moving down 20th, you can see again that strong base and middle. We have stoops all along 20th here with balconies with the wood accent material on the ground floor running up the balconies. Next slide. And then looking closer up along the EVA to the west side, you can see again the strong base middle top, and then the series of balconies that give a lot of shade and shadow to the building. Next slide. And then coming around to the main front entry, so spent a lot of time on the articulation of that entry to make it feel very welcoming, homey. There's a canopy around the front door. You can see all the brick detailing and balconies up above for the units above the lobby. Next. And then Richard's going to take you around the rest of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. This is our landscape plan at the ground plane. The highlights on this are the art plaza, pedestrian scale streetlights, grass pave at the EVA, and our proposal to use Brisbane box trees on Elkhorn Court in place of the red gum eucalyptus called for in the city's street tree plan. We're also upsizing our trees to 36-inch box. Next slide. And these are the changes we've made in response to feedback, or some of them, I should say. So number one in the bottom left is we studied the site vision triangles at Cordabella's garage exit and found them to be totally code compliant and safe. Two is we added a short-term loading zone for rideshare and food delivery. Three is we increased the length of the yellow loading zone on Elkhorn Court and added red curbs. And then four is we added parking pallet sliders within the garage. And then that detail in the bottom right, the street section, is actually showing that with the red curbs on our side, the street path of travel or travelway is up to 26 feet wide. Next slide. And then on this, we're showing a few more of the changes we've made in response to comments. One, we added grass pave along the Cortabella frontage in the common area. Two is we added the separated sidewalk and upsized the street trees. Three, the rooftop dog run. Four is adding the crosswalk with the RRFB across West 20th. And five is we're going to replace Cortabella's fence ahead of project construction. Next slide. And Chris covered most of these and, well, all of these in his presentation, so we can go to the next slide. And these as well, so next slide. And so these are the additional accommodations offered. We've met with the Shriners leadership 3 times, including this past Thursday. In an effort to improve the loading operations for their tenant, we reiterated our previous offer to restripe and extend their loading zone and install city signage for it. We also offered to install signs and paint several parking stalls in their lot to reserve the stalls for parents during pickup and drop-off times. These stalls are accessible via the existing sidewalk on the Shriner side of the street. If Public Works is in agreement, we would also be happy to install signage for a reduced speed limit on Elkhorn Court and paint parking tees on the south side of West 20th. If Public Works accepts it as part of our construction management plan, CMP for short, we will install a temporary secondary construction entrance on West 20th Avenue to reduce the construction trips on Elkhorn Court for use until we pour the new building's foundation. Finally, as I'll detail later, we will install an 8-foot high construction noise barriers on the eastern and southeastern perimeter of the project as directed by the city. Next slide. Condition of approval 4 requires that we prepare, submit, and obtain approval from the city of a CMP prior to beginning construction. The CMP is required to include these items, including a traffic control plan, logistics plan, construction hauling routes, erosion and dust control plan, and construction noise mitigation plan. Next slide. Gotcha. These are more requirements from the CMP. Our erosion control and dust plan will include incorporation of the Bay Area Air District's recommended best management practices, including covering loose loads, limiting speed limits, street sweeping, stopping work when wind speed reaches 20 miles per hour, and among others. In addition, as detailed in our letter from earlier today, we will host a neighborhood pre-construction meeting at the site. As we hope has been demonstrated by our outreach to date, we will meet with our neighbors regularly to share updates around the issues. Next slide. In our meeting with the Shriners last Thursday, we heard concerns about the noise our project's construction will create. In response to this, we met with our construction managers and acoustical engineer last Friday to create a suite of voluntary accommodations that exceed what is required of the project. Among these, we will erect a noise barrier on the eastern and southeastern sides of the project, as described in the letter and directed by the city. Next slide. The busiest traffic hours are referred to peak hours. These are 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. During morning peak hour, the project will only add an additional 20 new trips entering the project and 40 trips exiting the project. During the evening peak hour, the project will add 34 trips entering the project and 14 exiting. Next slide. These are some of the TDM items, transit pass subsidies, bike rooms, and amenities to prevent trips from happening. Next slide. Next slide, I think Stephanie covered this. And in conclusion, we're very excited to have the opportunity to work in San Mateo. We appreciate staff's efforts throughout this process, as well as the feedback from our neighbors.
We have read and accept the 105 conditions of approval and request your approval of the project this evening. Thank you for your consideration. We're available for questions.
Thank you for that presentation. And at this time, I would like to open up the item for public comment. So those who are in the chamber, if you have a request to speak slip, please hand it to the city clerk. If you're online, please raise your hand, or if you're on the phone, please raise your hand at this time.
We'll just give just a few more moments. If you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand now. If you're in our virtual environment, if you're in our chamber and you haven't already submitted a request to speak, please do so now. We will be calling the last name of our speakers, both in chambers and in person, or in our virtual environment. All right, Mayor Lorraine, that sets our total number of speakers at 19, including in person and virtual. Our final speaker in chambers will be Michael Reagan, and our final speaker in our virtual environment will be Janali. And actually, that is 20 speakers at this time, so that would set, per council adopted rules and procedures, that would set the time at 2 minutes per speaker.
Thank you.
So if I call your name, if you could please line up to our left here near the flagpole, we'll call the names of the next 3 speakers. And we'll begin with in-person requests to speak. Our first speaker will be Rayanne Bulger, followed by Ronnie Antonio and Russell S. Breed.
Thank you.
If you could please speak into the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Mayor and members of the council, when we build a 7-story giant in front of my office, you're not just building in front of one family residence, you're building in front of 103 current families that I have enrolled at Little Bloom. You can think of Little Bloom as yet another apartment building on Elkhorn Court. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I serve over 103 families, which equals 206 moms and dads with cars, with children from 6 months to 6 years old. I also have 25 teachers on staff who have been with me for over 10 years. Honestly, I feel like my giving up my career as an NP to provide a business for families in San Mateo no longer means anything. I'm just being pushed aside. How convenient for the builders to exempt from SECO, but how unfortunate for the 6-month-old babies we serve. Please consider Little Bloom as yet another apartment complex entering and exiting Elkhorn. The other night, I was leaving work around 8:30, and city officials walking around the building at 8:30 p.m. when all the businesses are closed and all things look calm. Please come visit us at 8:30 in the morning. I was asked if parents would like to park in the back parking lot and walk to the front to enter. Have any of you ran an errand with a baby, and sometimes even 2 babies? I feel like my customers would sacrifice quality and safe drop-offs at the expense of major builders. I really hope you hear us. We don't mind apartments. We just want this one to be, we don't want this one to be of grander size. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers will be Ronnie Antonio, followed by Russell S. Breed and Oleski Cueco.
Good evening, Mayor Lorraine and members of the City Council. My name is Ronnie Antonio, and I serve as board president of Asaya Shriners, a charitable nonprofit organization with 700 members. I'm also a former board member of Pacific Islands Together. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask the City Council to reject the project in the form recommended by the Planning Commission. Let me be clear, we're not anti-housing. We recognize the need for housing, and I support responsible development. However, we believe the Planning Commission failed to give adequate weight to the significant public safety, traffic, and community impacts this project will have on existing organizations and have served San Mateo for many years. Our property on Elkhorn Court is home to Asaya Shriners, Little Bloom Child Care, Partners for Independence Adult Day Program, and Sons of the Desert Masonic Lodge. Together, these organizations serve children, adults with special needs, families, seniors, community members, and hundreds of local residents. Elkhorn Court is already heavily congested. Those of us who use it daily understand the challenges that exist today. The addition of a 7-story development with substantially increased traffic will only make those conditions worse. What concerns me the most is the impacts are not theoretical. If our tenants determine that access, safety, and operational conditions become unmanageable, they may choose to leave. Those tenants are not only important community services, they also provide the revenue that allows Osaya Shriners to maintain its facility and continue its charitable mission. If that happens, San Mateo risks losing a child care center, an adult day program, a Masonic lodge, and a nonprofit organization with 700 members and a long history of charitable service. That is not smart planning. Growth should strengthen a community, not displace the organizations already serving it. I respectfully ask the City Council to reject the Planning Commission's recommendation and require meaningful changes that address traffic, access, and public safety concerns before this project moves forward.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Russell S. Breed, followed by Oleski and Kevin Simpson.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Russell Breed. I'm a resident of San Mateo. I've been a Osaya member since 1994, the year after they relocated from San Francisco down here to San Mateo. I'm here to recommend that we reject the proposal as presented and refer it back to the developer for further work. Osaya has raised concerns about traffic and trash pickup and the effect that those will have on activities of our tenants at Little Bloom and Partners for Independence. The traffic survey that came out only addressed Elkhorn Court. 995 trips per day added on to the trips that are already happening with Lark and the existing tenants are something that we proposed the entrance be changed over to 20th. The Planning Commission indicated that the city code or ordinance talks about primary and secondary entrances, and that the requirement is that when there's a secondary access road, that be used. They did not allow for any variance to that, and the Planning Commission said that they couldn't dictate, but the developer would have to request that variance. We're recommending that it go back to the developer so that they can request a variance so they can have the entrance on West 20th instead of Elkhorn Court. The areas that are proposed with red striping, while that widens the roadway.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Alexi, followed by Kevin Simpson and Gary Stevens.
Good evening, Mayor Lorraine, council members, and members of the public. My name is Alexei Chuka, and I'm the Director of Operations for Osaya Shriners, past Executive Board member of San Mateo Police Activities League, and past City of Oakley Planning Commission Chairman. Tonight, I'm asking you to put your constituents above the developers using predatory ways to exploit the housing element crisis in the Bay Area. Osaya Shriners have been an active part of San Mateo community since 1993. And have always been a good neighbor, but after Planning Commission's unanimous approval, we have frankly felt disregarded and unheard, as you can see by the amount of our members present here tonight. The city's own traffic study on the proposed project on page 34 confirms that entrance on Elkhorn Court will force surrounding intersections, specifically the Elkhorn and West 20th cul-de-sac, from already heavily congested level of service E into level F gridlock. Every single day, parents and caregivers rely on this exact cul-de-sac to safely unload children and assist adults with limited abilities. Designing a permanent traffic obstacle on a dead-end road serving children and disabled adults is a profound public safety violation, which cannot and should not be discarded, even due to provisions of the state assembly bills. In its current iteration, this project is irresponsible and is an existential threat to our own survival. If our care centers tenants are driven out of this choked bottleneck, we'll be forced to permanently shut our doors, ending a 143-year history of providing life-saving medical care for children at our Shriners hospitals. Your vote to support this project in its current form is a vote to wipe out a 143-year-old charity, 170-year-old Masonic Lodge, a child care center, and an adult care facility just to line the pockets of exploitive developer who will be gone when the project is complete. I strongly ask you to reject this project in its current recommended version. Thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Kevin Simpson, doesn't appear to be in the room. We'll go ahead with Gary Stevens, Joe Verga, and Steve Weiss.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Gary Stevens, and I'm the Director of Membership and the Community Chair for Outreach for Asaya Shriners in San Mateo. As you may know, our fraternity is dedicated to philanthropy, specifically supporting Shriners Hospital for Children globally. Our building on Elkhorn Court also proudly houses two vital local businesses, Little Bloom Child Care and Partners for Independence Adult Care. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask the City Council to reject this project in its present design and implementation recommended by the Planning Commission. However, we are not anti-housing. We asked Summerhill to come up with a new design that we could all live with. And I mean that literally. It's only a matter of time with a drastic increase in traffic for a serious accident to occur. And where will the new tenants park? With 1.2 parking spots per unit, and I know that was within limits, within regulation, there'll be lots of residents and guests looking for parking. And where will they go? Right down Elkhorn Court. What will this do? This will increase the traffic more on Elkhorn Court, and it'll be complete gridlock where Little Bloom's parents drop off their children. Asaya Shriners values our tenants. If we lose these tenants, and we will no longer be able to function in this area. Asaya Shriners has been in San Mateo since 1993, and we are a major supporter of the Northern Cal Shriners Hospital in Sacramento. This hospital is the premier hospital in a network of Shriners hospitals and takes care of burned and orthopedic children when they cannot afford to pay. Asaya Shriners and our parent organization make sure those children get the surgery, treatment, and care that they need. We urge you to reject Summerhill's project in its current form and bring a sensible and safe housing project to this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Gary Stevens, followed by Joe Verga and Steve Weiss. Oh, go right ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Joe Verga. I'm a former long-term care ombudsman for San Mateo County. My focus has always been with the elderly, those who need special care. Our facility houses Partners for Independent Adult Day Care, a critical program serving vulnerable adults with limited physical and cognitive abilities. These individuals require specialized travel vans and the undivided attention of caregivers to assist their safety in and out of the vehicle in our block. They cannot move quickly and they cannot navigate a chaotic street. The severe traffic influx from the massive residential tower will turn our accessible cul-de-sac into a choked style bottleneck. Transit vans will be cut off from gridlock and forced to unload wheelchair-bound seniors right in active, dangerous areas. And you might look at me and think, I'm a senior too. I know what this means. This is a serious consideration. There are options available to the planner, to the designer of this building, if they will take these options, that can reduce the amount of flow of traffic on Elkhorn Court. We've met with resistance from the planners of this building at this time. I believe it's because it's financial consideration and because they don't want to affect the appearance of the building from the outside. But there should be a consideration for the elders and the children who use this court all the time. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Steve Weiss, followed by Gary Schweid and Charles Remington.
Good evening, Council. I'm a tenant of Asaya Shriners, specifically the treasurer of San Mateo's Masonic Lodge, which has been a San Mateo institution for 150 years, at risk of also being displaced. I am also a member of San Mateo Forward, a chapter of YIMBY Action. As a YIMBY, I support responsible development that is paired with infrastructure capable of supporting additional density, which this project lacks, and I ask you to reject it as presented. The project is hiding behind an AB 2097 exemption by drawing a straight line on a map to Hayward Park Caltrain Station. Council, humans do not fly. While it might be half a mile as the crows fly, its actual physical walking distance is over 3/4 of a mile. Treating this as a walkable transit corridor is a fiction that ignores the reality on the ground and frankly makes me question everything that Summerhill has said. I also want to address the 8 guest parking spots in an area with already limited parking. Let's do some elementary school math. 232 units and 8 guest spots. That's 1 guest spot per 29 units. Imagine if I said, Council, all of you and your friends can only have a total of 1 guest this Thanksgiving. Who would that be? How does this help residents of the below market units when their elderly or handicapped guests can't visit? This is not the type of housing lower income residents in below market units want or need. They get what they get. This is not acceptable to them. Given the misrepresentation of the walking distance to Caltrain and the suggestion that 8 guest spots are generous, I strongly question the study that predicts only 995 additional trips down Elkhorn Court.
Thank you.
As I assume it would be much higher. Please reject this.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers will be Gary Schweid, followed by Charles Remington and Maury Marouch.
Hello, council members and mayor. I don't have any formal statement to make other than what you've heard from the Shriners here tonight, that all it takes to make this work is to flip this building around and make the entrance off of Elkhorn. Take it out of Elkhorn and we can work together. We're not trying to stop this, but be it known that if you let this happen and this traffic creates a situation on Elkhorn where children are put in jeopardy, you're on notice. You have allowed this to happen. You will not fare well in elections when the taxpayer has to pay out against accidents that never should have happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers will be Charles Remington, followed by Maury Marouch and Vladimir Verlara.
Hello, I'm Charles Remington. I am the first vice president of Asaya Shriners. You've heard about the traffic. You've heard about our tenants. You heard from our tenant, the first speaker out here. You heard the ramifications of if we lose our tenant, we lose our ability to continue to support our fraternal charity, and that is the Shriners Hospital for Children. We wear these hats. Hey, those are the hospital guys. When we walk in the parades, our flag says San Mateo, California. The signs on the side of our trucks say San Mateo, California. When we are in New York, we are Asaya of San Mateo, California. The city of San Mateo gets a lot of goodwill based on what we do. I'm also a member of the Board of Governors of the Shriners Hospital in Northern California. So let me give you a little bit of numbers of what we do and why this is so important to us to be able to continue to fund our charity. In 2025, the Children's Hospital and Clinic of Northern California treated 13,471 children in 31,696 clinical visits. That is irregardless of their ability to pay. That is what Shriners Children's is about. That is what Shriners do. That is why it is vital for us to be able to maintain our facility, to be able to keep our membership, to be able to continue to fund the hospital, and to make those life-changing decisions for these children. And when you see a child roll into the hospital and walk out, then you understand what it is that we do. So keep that goodwill with San Mateo. Please reconsider this project in its current state.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Maury, followed by Vladimir and Cliff.
Good evening. My name is Maury Moriucci. I'm a longtime supporter of the Shriners Children's Hospital. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for your service. I urge you to look beyond the developer's presentation and focus on the realities of this proposal. As you have heard, this issue is not growth. The issue is foreseeable risk. Every day, parents unload toddlers from vehicles, and we have individuals with limited mobility and service providers access, and adding substantial traffic to this constrained roadway increases the risk of pedestrian accidents, congestion, and blocked emergency access. Once these concerns have been identified, any future injury, accident, or emergency response delay could be entirely foreseeable. That creates serious public safety concerns and potential liability exposure for everyone involved. We respectfully ask the council to protect the safety of children, seniors, and disabled adults, and require a solution that adequately addresses traffic, parking, and emergency access, and reject this project in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Vladimir, followed by Cliff and Ron Mitchell.
Good evening. My name is Vladimir Vergara. I'm a resident of San Mateo. I am a member of Asaya Shriners. I've had two kids that attended Sarah High School. And during the time when my kids were going to school, there was tons of traffic coming off of 92 between the hours of 7 and 8. So you imagine the amount of traffic that's be coming off 92, in addition to parents dropping off kids at Cary as well, trying to come down this street down here with all these people are going to be housed in this new construction. It's going to be mayhem here. Please reconsider this. And I just wanted to point out the amount of traffic that's going to be at this area if this construction goes through. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Cliff, followed by Ron Mitchell and Janice Antonio.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd just like to say, please just consider the elderly and the children that are on Elkhorn for their safety. That's all I want you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Ron Mitchell, followed by Janice Antonio and Rich Hedges.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm speaking on behalf of our fraternity, Asaya Shriners, as you've already heard. This has been part of the San Mateo since 1992 and is home of both the Little Bloom Child Development Center and Partners for Independence Adult Daycare Center. Again, as you previously heard, our concern is not simply traffic. It's the foreseeable risk created by placing a large residential development on a narrow dead-end street that serves children, seniors, and adults with disabilities every day. It should be known that parents unloading toddlers, transit vans assisting individuals with limited mobility, pedestrians, service providers, and emergency vehicles already share the significantly constrained roadway. Adding hundreds of additional vehicular trips will substantially increase the risk of pedestrian accidents, vehicular conflicts, and blocked access. Emergency access is a serious and particular concern. Delays of emergency services such as fire, police, ambulance, or medical transport can have serious consequences for the vulnerable populations that serve our facility, that work at our facility. These risks create potential liability for all parties concerned. Personal injury and any pursuing litigation resulting from unseeable traffic congestion, inadequate parking, impaired emergency access should not come as a surprise. We therefore respectfully request the council to protect public safety and require a thorough evaluation of these risks and reject this project in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Janice Antonio, followed by Rich Hedges and Michael Reagan.
Hello, my name is Janice Antonio. I am the First Lady of Asaya Shriners. We've heard Asaya Shriners has a child care and adult care, but not only do we have those businesses in our building, our charity helps thousands of children all over the world. Asaya of San Mateo alone has helped at least 23 children in the last 6 months. Just this past year, we helped a little girl who is spinal bifida to walk. Now, does the mayor and city council of San Mateo want to be known as a council who stood by this nonprofit group that helps thousands of children and families, or do they want to be known as the council that helped kill the nonprofit that helps thousands of families? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Rich Hedges, followed by Michael Reagan.
Good evening, Mayor Lorraine and City Council members. 35 years ago, I began coming to City Council meetings speaking about building more housing, because already in those years I was seeing the regeneration of our families being flown out of this area because of the cost of housing. We have to build more housing. Not only is it the right thing to do, but the state tells us to. We have to be trod very carefully when we're denying developments. We have to have solid grounds, because within my memory, we lost a lawsuit over 10 units of housing. If you want to predict that out to the cost of losing a lawsuit over the amount of housing we're looking at tonight, it might not be very pleasant. But I will tell you that I've seen these same concerns about housing, and I'm not saying they're not important, over and over again, Bay Meadows and many other projects, and the traffic impacts have really never materialized to a great extent. So it's always frightening to see this, but not necessarily does it become something that happens. So I would just say, along transportation, I've not heard anything mentioned tonight about a bus line within a quarter of a mile that operates every 15 minutes on its headways. Well, we have such a bus 2 blocks from this particular development that qualifies just as strongly for transit for this project based on the number of automobiles you need to put in a building. And so the El Camino Real bus, especially at that stop, I'll see as many as 7 or 8 people waiting on a bus there from time to time. So it's already a very popular stop. So it's not just Caltrain, but it's also the bus that runs along El Camino that qualifies. So without saying any more about this, I'll just say that this is the time has come for this project because it's become so expensive to build that builders have to have height in order to make a profit. So we need to provide this development for the city who people need housing.
Thank you. And our final speaker in chambers will be Michael Reagan.
Good evening again. I was going to speak about one thing or the other. Michael Reagan, president of the Beresford Hillsdale Neighborhood Association. So I was here to basically ask you to take the neighborhood considerations into your approval of this project, traffic, parking issues, and safety issues. But listening to the Shriners' concerns, I think that I think they're very valid concerns, and I think that if the developer is willing to work with the Shriners, I think they're willing to work with them, but evidently they have not, really satisfied their concerns, and I find that upsetting. And I think they probably could, if it's just a matter of, not worrying about the profit of the building, but of being a good neighbor. I think they could do a better job at working with the Shriners. That doesn't sound like a good outcome for them. Just a couple of notes that I took. 232 units, equating 700 people, maybe 7 stories, 270 parking spots for that many units. 8 on-site visitors, not enough. Service workers parking, I didn't hear anything about that. And then 995 daily new net vehicle trips. Maybe my math is wrong, 365,000 a year increase in traffic. I don't have to say much more. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving to our virtual environment where we have 3 remaining speakers. Our first speaker will be the user with the screen name Sam Sita. Please go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, my name is Larissa Kenyatta. I am with the San Mateo County Economic Development Association, also known as SAMCETA. For 7 decades, SAMCETA has been leading voice for the economic engine that is San Mateo County. SAMCETA believes in the power, strong economy driven by appreciation of what that engine provides to our ecosystem on the peninsula. On behalf of the Board of Directors of SAMCETA, I'm here to express SAMCETA's support for Summerhill Apartment Communities project around the corner from us at 220 West 20th Avenue. SAMCETA understands and respects that one of the city of San Mateo's top priorities is housing. The housing imbalance remains as one of the region's biggest problems, and its impact the stability of businesses of all sizes and location. Summerhill Apartment Community proposal is a realization of extensive work recently undertaken by the city to update its general plan, housing element, as well as the voters to approve Measure T. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And our next speaker will be Jordan Grimes. Jordan, please unmute your mic.
Yes, good evening, Council, Honorable Mayor. Jordan Grimes, 19th Avenue Park. I did want to chime in on this one specifically because I heard a member of the public identify themselves as a member of San Mateo Forward. as a lead member of that organization, the person who identified themselves is not a member of our organization. I want to say that out front and very clearly. We're an organization that supports housing projects and progressive policy in San Mateo. We're have not taken a position on the specific project, but we certainly would not endorse against it. And this person was not speaking on behalf of our organization, so I want to make that very clear. On a personal note, as a lifelong resident of the city, I do support the project. I want to align my comments with those of former council member Hedges and just say that I live across the street from Station Park Green, as well as a couple other apartment complexes. And similarly, the concerns have never, the concerns around parking, around safety, around traffic have never actually come to pass. I remember people predicted apocalypses around parking availability and traffic safety, none of which occurred. So I urge you to support this project. I mean, you really don't have a choice. State law is very clear in this instance that you must advance it. And so I look forward to seeing it built. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Janali. Janali, please unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Jenny Carino, and I am a lifelong San Mateo resident, born and raised in this community, and a local community activist dedicated to serving the families of San Mateo County. Over the years, the Assigna Shriners have been incredible partners to our community. Through their generosity and support, we have been able to provide more than 150 backpacks filled with school supplies to local children and assist with many other community-focused initiatives. Their presence has had a direct and positive impact on the countless families throughout our county. And having lived in San Mateo for 23 years and currently working just around the corner from the proposed apartment development, I have serious concerns regarding this project. First and foremost is safety. The proposed development is located near the Little Bloom facility where children are present daily. As someone who works in the area, I regularly witness 2 to 3 accidents each week in front of my job at the nearby intersection, which is El Camino and 20th Avenue, due to speeding vehicles going to the freeway exit for 92. Drivers rushing in and just hitting cars. It always happens right in front of my job. Traffic congestion is already a significant issue, and I am concerned that adding a large residential development will only increase both traffic volume and the likelihood of accidents, putting children and families at greater risk. Parking is another major concern. During the presentation, it was suggested that parking demand would be reduced because the site is located near public transportation. However, we have heard similar occurrences before here in San Mateo. A nearby example is the apartment building near Hillsdale Mall, where residents frequently overflow into the neighboring parking lots despite their proximity to transit. I would hate to see this similar situation occur here, where residents will be utilizing the Saya Shriners parking lot at the same way the apartment's tenants in by Hillsdale are using the Michaels parking lot. As someone who's grown up in San Mateo and continues to invest my time and energy into this community, it would be heartbreaking to see a development contribute to the loss of an organization that has given so much back to local families. The Asaya Shriners are more than just a property. They are a valued community partner whose
Thank
work
you.
has benefited countless
Thank you,
children.
Janali. Your time is up. Thank you. Mayor Lorraine, that concludes public comment.
Thank you all. I appreciate those who gave public comment. I will close public comment at this time. How are we feeling? Oh, yeah. Just checking to make sure we're all okay with continuing. Yeah. Okay. Yes. We'll bring it back to the dais and begin with Councilmember Svirko-Kaditsky.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for the presentation. I'm wondering, I was going to ask the developer, but maybe we'll start with Zach. Can you walk us through AB 297 and talk about the exemption based on proximity to transit?
Or are you referring to AB 2097?
Yes, thank you. 2097.
Yes. So what that does is it basically says a local jurisdiction cannot set a minimum parking requirement for any project, commercial or residential, that is located within 1/2 mile of a high quality transit stop. For the most part, that means the 3 Caltrain stations in San Mateo, but we do have a couple of bus stops that also meet that same criteria.
And is that measurement based on a straight line, a radius? Like, what's the threshold to calculate that?
That is a radius. So it's a 1/2 mile radius that rings the station or the bus stop.
Okay. And just to confirm, so it has to basically, it's based off the shortest walking distance.
It's not a walking distance; it's a radius. I mean, as long as you're within that half a mile, as the crow flies, you create a buffer around the station, and this property does fall within it. Basically, the city hall is right at the kind of the outer edges of the half mile radius, moving down 20th. So this project site is fully within it.
Okay. Thank you. And then several speakers noted that existing tenants, including the Shriners, might face displacement. I guess this is a question for the developer. What types of outreach have you done? When was the last time that you had a conversation? And can you walk us through any mitigation you've proposed?
Yeah, definitely. So our initial meeting, our initial public outreach was back in May of last year. Subsequent to that, we've had 2 meetings with the Shriners. I think the most recent, if you can pull up the slide with the community outreach, I want to say it was February or March. And after that, we left the door open. We're willing to meet again, and I think we communicated that. And then subsequent to our planning commission meeting, we had another meeting with the city and the Shriners this past Thursday. And to answer the second part of it, would you be able to go to the slide showing the changes we've made as well? Some of the things that we've offered to change as a result of the feedback we've received are initially after the first 2 meetings, they said our loading zone wasn't long enough on West 20th. So we extended that. In addition to that, we've offered to restripe their white loading zone where drop-off and pickup happens across the street from us, install city signs so that the loading zone can be enforced. And so those are number 3 on the screen there where it's passenger loading. They can put the time that it's enforced, and that sign is actually in front of Sarah High School. Number 1 there, we've offered to restripe some of their parking lot and put signs in to reserve it for drop off and pickup. And if you look at the plan or the aerial on the left, you can see number 3, in between 3 and 2, that's where their loading zone is. If you put parking reserved for the drop off and pickup in their parking lot, the parents would be able to walk with the kids and adults on the sidewalk completely out of the street.
And then I guess just a point of clarification. So I know this is subject to city council approval. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like there's still discussion going on with the Shriners group. So if the outcome is that we approve this project tonight, will these additional accommodations still go in?
Oh yeah, the additional accommodations, we put them in our letter this morning. Those are, we stand by them.
Okay, and then I want to make sure there's time for other questions, so this will just be my last one for now. In 2022, 2023, we had some flooding in San Mateo, and I recall that the main street out here on City Hall had some pooling and flooding. Has that since been resolved?
We are outside of a flood zone, and then we, as part of our project, we're adding 600 feet or so of storm sewer heading east. If you look at the site, the left-hand side is the high side, and then it flows towards El Camino Briel. So we're installing 600 feet of storm drain in that direction.
Okay, thank you. I'll yield to others.
Thank you. Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Thank you through the mayor, and thank you to planning staff for putting the presentation together. Thank you to Summerhill. Thank you to all the Shriners. And I also want to thank a group of people who are not here tonight, or maybe they're online, but the residents of Portobello. I am the council member who this development is in my jurisdiction, and I have been working with the residents for many, many months. I look forward to working with all of you and the Shriners going forward. But I guess my experience has been slightly different in the sense that Portobello residents had many specific requests, and I've been very impressed with how the developers have responded to that. My major concern is around traffic safety, as I think everyone has said tonight, and there are a number of recommendations that have either been accepted or are before the city that Summerhill has put together, or SHAC, excuse me, I should be calling you by your official acronym, that I'm very much in support of. And also I would strongly encourage the city to support these, a lot more striping, a lot more, just making it easier for people to park, people to be safer. But there's a whole list of things that I could go through and I won't right now. But I look forward to hearing the city's response for many of those things. The one thing that I will just harken back to the last council meeting we had, when I mentioned during reports and announcements that I was very concerned about the impact during construction of many projects happening at the same time. And council supported me and nominated Councilmember Newsom to work with me on an ad hoc committee to really try and develop a one-stop shop of information. And I think this is going to be a great example of how we could actually use this to be beneficial to the Shriners, to Portobello, to the Elks, to the developer, to have all the information in one place, and also understand what everyone's concerns are during construction. So I would strongly encourage the Shriners and Summerhill to sit down and understand what are the priorities of things that have to happen, so that we can get that the information that the city has. They know when the cement trucks are coming, when the train's coming in, what's going to happen to traffic, and how can we put it together in a way that's easy for you to access. So I would just really encourage all the traffic safety enhancements that are proposed to be okayed by the city. Then a question I had for someone is West 20th one of the streets part of the speed survey study that the city is conducting?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. I think that's going to be really important to get the results of that. And let's see, then I would also really encourage everyone to keep the communication going. I'm glad to see that SHAC and the Shriners are doing a lot more communicating than maybe you have in the past. And I encourage Portobello to continue. I encourage the Elks to stay engaged. And I'm hearing from residents up and down West 20th a lot of the concerns that you've raised about what's going on. Sarah, I would certainly encourage them to get involved in this. I would love to see a crosswalk in front of Sarah as well, with flashing lights. But I think this has really got to be a community effort, because we are going to be developing, but we can develop in a smart way. And I really encourage all of us to stay together. So I will stop with that right now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you, through the mayor. I guess my first question would be, we've had some people here say, let's stop the project. And so to direct this to the city attorney, is that something that's viable? Or based on state law, would we find ourselves in a world of hurt if we tried to stop the project?
Well, as you know, this is a Housing Accountability Act project where the city has very limited discretion to deny the project or condition it on reduced density. So denial of a HAA project could only be based on very limited health and safety findings. And I could explain it further, but I know the council is very much aware of this limitation on the city's discretion.
Thank you. That was exactly the answer I was looking for. Thank you. So based on that, denying the project is not really in the cards. So I think what we need to do as a council is make sure that we're addressing the primary concerns of the Shriners, of the Elks, of the neighbors. I think one neighbor in particular, my mom, who's in the audience. I think, and those primary concerns that I'm hearing are really what comes down to most things that are concerning the neighbors, which is traffic and parking. So I guess the first question I have is, there was a comment that the city does not allow the parking entrance to be moved onto West 20th. Is that an accurate statement, or could the entrance and exit to the parking be moved onto West 20th?
We can have our public works staff weigh in who are online.
Through the mayor, I can cite there are two specific City of San Mateo regulations that speak to location of driveway access, one being in the municipal code, section 27.64.025, that states that new driveway access to arterial streets, which is what West 20th Avenue, I believe, is dedicated as, is prohibited unless no other means of access is available. And then secondly, there is a standard regarding parking entrances within the city's adopted objective design standards, ODS number 3.23, that speaks to developments that front more than one street, such as this project site, that says such driveway accesses shall be located on the secondary street frontage, side street, or other alley access is provided only if the city engineer requires access to occur for traffic flow purposes.
And through the mayor, this is largely for traffic and safety reasons, but we do have public works staff on the line who can probably describe more if you have further questions on that.
Okay. So the answer again is no, but I'm not entirely sure that I'm understanding why. I mean, when we look at this, I think the intent of having you come in from off street or off a main thoroughfare is to reduce the amount of traffic. And I'm concerned that with the already existing units around this and all the traffic that comes from the daycare and the adult program, that this is really putting way too much traffic into a cul-de-sac. So I don't know if we have any grounds to stand on, but I would like, if possible, for us to consider at least looking at the alternative of having the entrance and exit be on 20th and building traffic solutions around that. I think, the other thing that we seem to be kind of brushing over is that with Sarah and the Elks and all the traffic that's on this street, I can't help but think that we're going to have streetlights. It's not going to be able to sustain itself with only stop signs. So I don't have a question there, just comments.
So just really quickly, I'd really appreciate if our public works team who's online to please enter into the conversation. Oh, there's Jay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, Jay. Can you please speak to the reasonings?
Yeah, 100%. How am I sounding over there? I think I'm on the Jumbotron.
You sound great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, Councilmember Newsom, there's a couple of main reasons why the Municipal Code states that we should not be adding new driveways and arterials. And safety is a key factor. When we're looking at adding driveways, our point of conflict, we call conflict points, we definitely want to put it in a street that, one, is controlled, which Elkhorn is because it has the stop sign, but also has lower vehicle volumes. We could dive into the traffic impact analysis, but when we look into it, on West 20th, there is a disproportionate higher amount of volume in the magnitude of almost 3 to 4 folds. So putting a driveway that increases close to 900 net new trips, if you will, coming in of the driveway is not something we want to do, primarily because of safety.
Thank you, Jay. All right. A few other questions. The EVA lane, it's hard looking at the diagram to understand, but is there a turnaround point for fire trucks once they enter that EVA lane? Is that on the subsequent property behind it, or does a fire truck effectively either have to back in or back out to get out of the EVA line?
We're working on pulling up a map.
Thanks.
But Jason, who is online from Public Works, if you could speak to that as well while we're getting the map up.
Certainly. Hi. Good evening, Mayor. The turnaround is on the Lark. So this is EVA. It extends all the way into and through the Lark, but there is a hammerhead right at the interface between this property and the Lark.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. It doesn't appear on the project, but I assumed it was because it's on the other property. Thank you. The park fee was stated to be 1.4 million. Was that, and then it was corrected, but I thought you said 4 million, and that seemed far too high. What is the actual park in lieu of fee for this development?
We're working on getting that up for you, but it is for actually closer to 5 million, and that was an error that we are going to show you the correct number for. But again, that is an estimate at that time, and it will be adjusted depending on when they apply for building permits.
Okay, thank you. I just echo the comments of my fellow council members. I think we really need to focus on traffic mitigation and safety. My kids went to Little Bloom. Hi, Ms. Rahan. And it was a great school, great experience. But, even then there was concerns. And when my kids were there, that was pre-COVID. So there were many more cars in the insurance parking lot. Do we have any idea from the developer how many cars used to use that parking spot before they started working remotely?
Yeah, definitely. The building's 28,500 square feet, and I counted 69 parking stalls there.
Okay, thank you. Other comments would be, I echo the sentiment of the Planning Commission that we should avoid eucalyptus and try to focus on indigenous trees. It sounds like the developer's already on board with that, so thank you. And really, I just want to, continue to press that we look for ways to make this safe. The Saya Shriners are a huge asset to our community, and the services that they provide for our community are immense. And I don't want to see anyone displaced by this growth, but I understand that this growth is coming. And so I just encourage everyone to continue to try to find ways to mitigate traffic and ensure that parking is not an issue, and that we keep our everyone who uses this facility is safe. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I may have a question or two myself. City Attorney, you mentioned in response to Councilmember Newsom's question about the state laws and our ability to reject the project being not necessarily possible unless there are specific findings related to public health and safety. And I just wanted to confirm, were those findings found here in this project?
Well, I'll have to turn to Public Works staff, Community Development staff to elaborate on that, but I think the answer is no. But again, the Housing Accountability Act prohibits cities from rejecting projects unless housing projects, unless there is a finding made of a specific adverse impact on public health or safety based on significant, quantifiable, direct, and unavoidable impacts. And those have to be based on objective standards that are in place at the time the project is deemed complete. So it's very narrowly worded. And so a finding would have to be made connecting those dots between the standards in effect at the time the project is deemed complete and the project itself. And perhaps Public Works staff can speak to that in more detail.
I think we're getting Public Works staff on the line, but I'll also add that I'm not sure it's been mentioned much, but a lot of the concern was around the width of the current street. And one of the significant changes for safety purposes was to, on the opposite side from the Shriners building, to add a red curb there. So functionally, the street will actually be wider than it was before because there will not be parking allowed there. So that will deal with some of the safety issues. But it looks like we have Jason on the line.
Right, so the project is removing all the parking on their side of the street, and the loading zones will remain on the opposite side of the street to serve the Shriners facility. The developer did propose extending it, but as far as loading and unloading their tenants, the oh, I'm sorry. No, the TIA. Let me backtrack. The TIA did not discuss any safety issues related to the loading for the project proposed, and if or address some of the public comments about their tenants and loaders running across the street or anything like that.
Okay, so maybe just to elaborate on that a little bit, in the transportation survey that was conducted, in the work that the city has performed when reviewing this project, did we find the sort of public safety issues that would be significant enough to warrant a rejection of this project?
We did not. Yeah, I think that's what Jason's speaking to there.
Correct. Yeah.
There was
nothing found in the TIA that alluded to a safety issue that couldn't have been mitigated.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to see if I have any other questions. I noticed the applicant shared some ideas for next steps to, in response to the meetings with Shriners, dependent on city approval. And I thought perhaps I could just ask Public Works if it sees any issues, obstacles with approving those or not.
I'm sorry, Mayor, do you want to list a specific one about approving?
So I think there was mention of potentially putting a sign related to a passenger drop-off sort of loading zone on the I'll just say like the Shriner side of Elkhorn Court, right? The eastern side, not exactly on the project, but some striping, potentially putting a reduced speed limit sign on that side as well. I think those were the main ones.
Okay, certainly. Yeah, but both of those two, I don't really see a problem at all for Public Works supporting.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think those are my questions at this time. I'm just going to look around and see if we have any more comments from other council members. Yes, Councilmember Suhogaditsky.
I actually I want to say I appreciate all the community's input. I think it's valuable. I think Summerhill has tried very hard to make additional accommodations and is still open to continuing those conversations. I would like to motion to approve.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I frankly appreciate the council member comments, and I'm just going to check to see if the city manager has something to mention.
In that motion, want to also include the tree recommendation from the council.
Yes.
Yes, please.
I support this. Very good. I believe we have a motion and a second for staff recommendation plus extra flexibility related to the tree, as has been mentioned. And City Clerk, we have a roll call vote, please.
Certainly. Councilmember Suhogaditsky?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom?
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash?
Yes.
Mayor Lorraine?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, we have another item. Item number 26, fiscal year 2026-27 budget, capital improvement program, Gann limit, and fiscal year 25-26 budget adjustments approval with a presentation from our finance director, Abby Vieser.
Right. So we're ready. Okay. Actually, for me, this is the big moment. This is exciting. So we are here tonight to have a review of the proposed 26-27 budget and the 2026-31 capital improvement plan. I am Abby Vieser, the city's finance director, and I'll just be doing a quick overview of the budget and the items that we'll be adopting tonight. Just as a quick refresher, again, we're here in the finish line of the budget process that's been going on since December. So the June 15th meeting here is the budget adoption as additional public hearing on the budget. The budget book has been available for the public, both online, and we've had copy at the clerk's office for folks to review if they'd like. So moving on. Generally, the budget is fairly similar to what we presented at the June 1st first budget hearing. There's a slight difference. You'll see the new proposed 26-27 citywide budget is $356.3 million. That's 0.2 or $200,000 less than what we came with back on the June 1st meeting. And the reason is because we did just go back and look at some of the intended cuts that we wanted to put into the general fund budget, and we had missed a couple of them. So we put those back in. And then we also did add the $15,000 that the council had talked about for the senior nutrition program. So those are really just kind of an add and then some reductions that we'd intended to remove, and that's really why there's a change. But in general, you can see that the general fund budget is $183.6 million, still 51% of the budget, which is supporting all our core services, the police, fire, library, parks and recreation, engineering, street maintenance, housing, and the general administration. Then, of course, the enterprise funds did not change. The storm and sewer is still at $74.9 million, 21%. The other funds did change slightly. So that one's at $31.5 million. And then capital projects fund, that stayed the same since what we showed you at the June 1st meeting. That is $66.3 million. So 81% of this is the operating budget at $290 million, and 19% is the capital budget, again, at $66.3. To dig into the revenues at the general fund level, as you will note, this is similar to what we presented at the June 1st meeting. So for the proposed budget for general fund revenues, we're going to be having $173.9 million as what's the proposed budget. Again, that's based on the information we kind of had when we put the budget book together. We wanted to stick with that. That is what we've put out there. But I did want to show council, just in case we do continue to see good news out of the state. I haven't looked if anything has changed since this morning, but I know. So I'm just going to show that if this is kept in the budget by what we had seen last proposed, that the $173.9 million would have the $4.6 million, which is about 67% of the VLF backfill that's owed to us. That would get us to $178.5 million if that if the state kind of sticks to the process that we last saw, the language that we've seen. So that is not in the proposed budget. That's why this is just kind of called the potential budget, because if something comes through, this is something that we would fix at mid-year. Right now, we're sticking with the proposed 173.9 as our proposed budget. And then to look at the expenditure side, I think as I mentioned, we had a small change here. And so it's $190.6 million for the proposed general fund budget. And you can see 183.6 of that is for operating expenditures, 7.06 million is for transfers out, 4 million of which support capital improvement. And as I mentioned, the senior nutrition program is in here, and then we had some small changes on the general fund side. But you can see the breakdown by department is still quite similar because it was very small changes. Did want to go again to the proposed budget, again, looking at the numbers. We brought the deficit down to 16.8 million, a nicer number than 17, I guess. So again, sticking with the 173.9 million in revenues, 190.6 in total expenditures, leaves us with a $16.8 million deficit, with the general fund ending balance of about 72.6 being projected here. We'll talk a little bit more about that general fund reserve, but as you can see, the capital investment reserve funding that we were proposing to take out is being kind of removed officially in this fiscal year, just kind of when we do the accounting side of it. And so that's why we're down to the 72.6 million next year at the end of the year, if kind of everything in the budget comes to fruition. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to mention? The other thing we can just remind you, everyone about, is that this 190.6 million does take into account some savings that we've already talked about as part of the financial sustainability plan. So there is a 1.5 million that's already been taken out of that 190.6. That is from workers' compensation funding that we will not be taking out of the general fund because we feel like that fund is healthy enough to support it. So that's a savings we've already taken out of this budget. But I also want to remind that we didn't take out the savings that we think we can get from freezing the positions. So the frozen positions are currently budgeted in here, but the goal is to not fill them so they can realize that 1.5 million in savings. So again, those are not baked into that 190.6, so that's a savings that we anticipate we can see. And then of course, if any of our revenues change, I just did a little picture just to show you what it would look like if our revenues changed. So if we did get that 4.6 million for next year to do the 67% of that particular backfill, again, that'd be 178.5. You'd see like a $12.2 million deficit rather than the 16.8. So that definitely helps us get back onto the road of having a smaller deficit in our general fund. And then again, I wanted to talk, like I said, a little bit about the reserves. As you can see here, the year-end projection unfortunately has not changed. I had hoped that we could have brought that year-end projection down a little bit. But with our revenues expected about 177.2 those are our current year-end projections for revenues for 25-26 for the general fund. And then our total expenditures of about 184.1, we are expecting a potential $6.9 million deficit in the general fund still. So that is still kind of coming to fruition. We have had some additional costs that have hit the general fund, so our savings, we couldn't really bring it down as much as we had intended. Let's see. And I also wanted to point out then again, we get us down to about 70.8 in this scenario, with the 6.9 and then also the 16.8 in this 26-27 year. So that would be at the very end of the 26-27 fiscal year. You'd have a general fund reserve about 70.8 million. If all things stayed as we put them in the budget. Let's see. And then we'll go over the proposed capital budget and the 5-year CIP. So as you can see, this is the same slide that we showed at the June 1st City Council meeting because we did not change any of the CIP projects. And so I wanted to keep it in there as we had it. As you can see, the proposed budget for 26-27 is $66.3 million. And then the proposed for the 5-year capital improvement program is $349.2 million. And again, just as a reminder, we adopt the first year of the proposed budget, and then we do adopt the 5-year plan, but of course we'll come back next year to kind of confirm that all these figures are right for the 27-28 year. And again, all of these figures were in the budget book that was provided. And so if folks need to see more detail about any of the projects, there's a list of all the projects that are included in each of these kind of program areas. And then finally, the items that are before you tonight, First is to adopt that fiscal year 26-27 operating and capital budgets. So that's kind of the first resolution that we have. Then we have a second resolution, which is adopting our Gann appropriation limits. So we did do the calculations for this year, and our Gann appropriations limit is about $300 million. Our revenues that we're appropriating are under that, so we are well within our Gann appropriations limit. So we're having the council adopt how we have calculated that Gann appropriation limit and approve that. In addition, we're approving the overall capital improvement program for the 5 years. And then we also have some year-end budget adjustments that were included in the budget AR. These are for fiscal year 25-26. The main operating one, actually the only operating one, is the additional appropriation that we're recommending for the general liability fund. There was additional legal costs. We thought there might be, and we did see that. So we're going ahead and appropriating $650,000 to that fund. And that's partially funded by, it's mostly funded by general fund, but it's slightly funded by sewer fund and construction services, given the composition of that general liability fund. And then the remaining adjustments are all capital improvement project adjustments. Most of them is we're trying to draw down the remaining amounts of our storm and it's the street and levy bond, the storm bond. It's the words are not coming. It's too late in the evening. It's the storm and levy bond. We're about to draw down all the funds. And so we're trying to consolidate it so that we can make sure we can do the final draw and close off the bond draws for that. So that's why that was kind of a priority. We wanted to see if we could get that done this fiscal year. So we've added that into this appropriation adjustments. Okay, and with that, I'm done with my presentation, and I'm here if you have any questions about the budget and the different resolutions that we're looking at tonight.
Thank you for that presentation. At this time, I will open up the item for public comment. And just in case people are online, City Clerk, just let us know.
Yes, Mayor Lorraine, we've received one request to speak. If you wish to speak on this item and you're still with us in our virtual environment, please raise your hand now. I will give you just a moment to do so. Mayor Lorraine, that is one request to speak. We'll set the timer at 3 minutes per speaker, and we'll invite Lisa Teeler to please unmute your mic.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Lorraine and members of the City Council. My name is Lisa Teeler, and I serve as a Koshland Fellow with the San Francisco Foundation, and also the Executive Director of the Bay Area Community Health Advisory Council that was founded in the city of San Mateo. I also want to take a moment to just thank the city staff for their diligence and transparency and responsiveness throughout this process. Their work has made it possible for the community to engage with the facts clearly and constructively. I want to acknowledge the $4 million capital reserve allocation for the King Center. That decision reflects years of community advocacy, and this community is grateful. I want to be clear that the community is not confused or misinformed, but grateful and are advocating for the King Center. Tonight, I'm here to ask you to take one more step and to confirm the projected funding gap for the full King Center monetization and resiliency project. We are asking that $500,000 contingency be put forth, that because construction costs rise every year, action is deferred. Completing this allocation now is more of a responsible financial choice for the city. Nearly 100 residents signed our petition. They showed up, they organized, they remain committed. San Mateo County Board of Supervisors President Noelia Corzo stands with this community as well. The King Center has anchored North Central San Mateo for over 50 years. Nearly 1,000 children learn to swim there every year. Over 3,000 residents count on it. This is an equity priority neighborhood that has waited long enough. We are asking for $500,000 for you to consider. Research shows that a vibrant, well-utilized and equipped community center can contribute to the overall well-being of the community, addressing issues from health screenings, mental health, education, job training, and enrichment, and safety, and the possibilities of the King Center in walking distance from schools, downtown businesses, churches, and other resources are ideal for unlimited possibilities. The investment in the King Center brings tangible and unforeseen benefit to this community. And I leave you with this question. Is what you prioritize is what you value? What is the value of the community to you? Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on this topic.
Thank you. Mayor Lorraine, that concludes public comment.
Okay, I thank the speaker for the public comment, and we'll close public comment and bring it back to the dais for the council. Council members, Fiuka-Kuditsky.
Abby, thank you so much for the presentation and for staying so late. In a similar vein, I guess this is for the city manager. As we continue to make difficult capital decisions, can you help me understand where facilities on the east side of the freeway are at? For example, Lakeshore facility is closed. Shoreview Rec Center is on its hind legs, and Joinville Pool is on its hind legs. And to the speaker's comment, where does King Pool rank in terms of facility condition and long-term investment needs?
Okay, I'll go and I'll tackle.
Thank you very much.
Questions. So, just overall, as part of this budget, there's a $250,000 line item. This is from our capital reserves to really study our community centers and our pools in the future of how we want to utilize them, and really the Joinville Pool, Shoreview, I'd say Central Park Community Center, Beresford, MLK, just how they all work and interact with each other is what we're going to be studying over the next year and a half. And that aligns with just the work that we have from our facility assessments as well of what investments are needed moving forward. Joinville Pool, we're still moving forward and it's still operational. It's going to be ready to go it's going to start here literally in the next few days. And so it's operational, up and running, and we plan to, the way we approach Joinville Pool is to keep it open and operating for hopefully 2-3 more years, with basically more shoestring and gum overall to get us through. But until we get that study done about just the future. One of the big issues over at Joinville Pool is that it's in bay mud overall. And so having a pool in the bay mud makes a bigger issue regarding cracks and the loss of water from your pools. King Pool is in great need of a new pool, and so that is something that this council, if you guys take action this evening, you would put $4 million from that capital reserve towards the King Pool. There's already $1.4 million budgeted. Phase 1 of the new King Pool, new locker rooms, and resiliency center, the nervous system of a resiliency center at King Center. That total cost, I believe, is at about $11 to $12 million total. So we're nearly halfway there in the funding. And as I have stated, I believe at our CIP study session, if the council is going to go ahead and make this type of investment, then we got to move forward and get the job done for phase 1. And so we'll continue to look for outside funding, grant opportunities using federal funds of the Community Development Block Grant. We also received another $850,000 earmark from Congressman Mullen. But just overall, if we need to find the delta, I'd be looking at my recommendation right off the bat to get phase 1 completed would be to tap into our capital reserves again for CIP to get that project done. And so that I'm just kind of laying out where the funding path is for the new King Center Pool, locker room, and resiliency center. Did I miss anything else in your questions?
You did, but
Which
just
one?
on the
Lakeshore?
Lakeshore and Shoreview Center. But before we get there, of the $4 million, I assume that staff has budgeted a contingency already.
So that's more than enough money right now to get us through the work that we anticipate for this upcoming year. And then we'll be circling back once we have dialed in. You guys are going to have a whole study session and go through the details after we've done significant community engagement. And once we dial in exactly the scope of the project and really nail down the price, then the estimates are at $11 million. I anticipate us keeping it there at the same time with guardrails. But at the same time, we won't know until we get the final design confirmed. And getting final direction from this council on that.
Yeah, I guess where I'm trying to make the point is, hey, the east side of the freeway, we're cut off from the rest of the city, and all our facility, we lost our daycare already. we're again 2-3 years away from losing our pool, and our rec center is also on shoestrings. So I understand that we have to look at the whole city and factor everything in, but all our facilities over there are going. You have over 25,000 residents living there, and they can't be forgotten either. So I just want to call that out. I know we have a super tight budget. We have very limited resources, but you know, we've been lacking representation for decades over there, and we're paying for it right now. Thank you.
So just about our investments on the east side, I'll follow up on that, is at Lakeshore Community Center right now, we're working with a consulting firm to look at a public-private partnership for new childcare facility, new community center out at Lakeshore Park. Additionally, we got Marina Library that will go ahead and have the ribbon cutting in March of this upcoming year. And so that's a major investment of the city on the east side. Additionally, we're making investments at the skate park over at Shoreview Park, and that's going to be a complete upgrade to the use, basically continuing the useful life of that skate park for a couple decades. Hopefully that's the goal over there. And then that's why the council's putting the $250,000, because exactly to your issue that you're raising is how's this all going to work in the future. And so we got to get to the bottom of that, exactly of what you're saying, so we can make our reinvestments.
And I do have to say, I'm so glad that you're doing public-private partnership, because we keep talking about it, and I am excited about that. I hope it doesn't take forever to happen, however we can push for it. But King Center to me is numero uno, because it's right at the center of the city. It's also a senior center. Totally understand that has to be the priority, but there are all these other facilities on the east side.
Understood, and that's what we're working on. Yep.
Just one more thing. I apologize. This is like a new ask, so I don't know if this is the right time, but I have been hearing a ton, since we're talking about the budget, from constituents all over the city about the Get Around program. And I just wonder, if there's anything we can be doing to make sure that we either renegotiate that deal or add more funding. Again, seniors are the largest demographic in the city. They need a way to get around the city.
So I can go ahead and speak to what's going on with the program right now. So historically, the city's budgeted $200,000 annually in Measure S. So you guys are approving that again this evening for the Get Around program. When you really look at Measure S, that was one of the main items that we were looking at specifically for seniors, for that demographic. And so it's been so successful. We have 13 Marie Silva's on there, but I think it's like 13,000 participants if I look at just overall within the program. It's really boomed. It was 10,000 just last year, went up another 3,000. But what we're also doing is we're looking at just the average. So the Get Around program, just for people who don't know, and maybe they're watching us right now, is basically it allows 8 one-way trips a month for seniors here at low cost rates. It's less than $10, and those who are income eligible, even less. I think it's like $2 a trip. And so it's subsidized by the city so that seniors who need to get to medical appointments, to the grocery store, etc., they can go within basically the Redwoods, from Redwood City up through here. Basically, you get a good ride out of it. And so right now it's averaging our participants at about 3.8 rides a month for the service. And so we're over $185,000 over budget finishing this year. So we budgeted $200,000. We're at $385,000. Took the $200,000 of Measure S. Took another $50,000 from vacancies in the rec department to help pay this program. But then we're going to have to come up with another $135,000, right, Finance Director, to cover that cost here. So when you say the $6.9 million we couldn't make, we couldn't go down, this is one of those areas that make up that we're not seeing the reduction. But overall, I think we're going after grants for this program moving forward. We've already committed $200,000. We're making tweaks to the program and seeing how that goes. And then we're going to reassess it here at the middle of basically at the 6-month mark, right in the new year. And then we can come back and have a further discussion on this item. That's kind of my recommended approach at this point in time.
And I appreciate that. It's very thorough. I'm just, one thing you said, and I swear this is my last question. Do we have any inkling on why it boomed suddenly?
Marie's probably online here. Marie, can you?
Yeah, I'm on here. Thank you very much. And all the information that you just provided is absolutely accurate. There's no real significant reason why, just that it has been an opportunity for those in need to use the program.
Okay.
So we have an aging population. So that's another thing. I'm going on these road shows and we're seeing, just the services. So the calls for services, they keep going up, but we do have an aging demographic here. People like to age in place here in San Mateo because we are resource rich in a sense of healthcare services and the proximity to the resources that an aging population would need.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that deep dive. I'm done.
I appreciate the questions. And does anyone else have any more? Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Thank you through the mayor, and thank you for the information on the Get Around program. The city manager and I had a long discussion about this today, actually. So I second everything you're saying about the importance and understanding we have to get it financially sustainable. I would love let's say in 6 months, to be able to have a program evaluation, what's happened, what grants have we made in, what's happening around. And I know that we're looking at how do we continue to clean up our list, because we have a lot of people on the list who maybe have gone to the great get around in the sky and we don't even know. So it's just important to have your information accurate. Sorry, but it's true. And I think that would be a great opportunity to really understand what's there and then be able to track what's happening. Now that we're making program tweaks to the number of rides and all that, are the active users using them more? What's happening? So I appreciate the emphasis. I appreciate your interest, and I would love our council to continue to keep this a high priority, just as I'm grateful to everybody for approving the incremental $15,000 for the senior nutritional meal program. I think we really have to go out and do a whole communication about what we are doing for our seniors and the senior hubs that are happening. I think there are a lot of good things happening, but as the senior city manager mentioned, they are our number one fastest growing segment. So it is going to be more and more of a responsibility. So I'm excited about that, but also it's feel very responsible. Then the other sort of major area, before anything else, congratulations on your first Director of Finance presentation of the budget. This is amazing. You did it. And what I really appreciate about what you do, Abby, is you take numbers that could make us all go, oh my God, my head. And you put them all together and explain them in a really accessible way for all of us and also for everybody who is listening in or will be listening in. Because this is maybe the most important thing we're going to do all year long. And there are not a lot of people in the audience, so I'm glad you're giving the presentation so they can listen tomorrow. So thank you for that. And one thing I would really love us to look at within the transportation funds, and we had a great big review about what we're doing in transportation, is looking at holistically, and once again, the city manager and I have had a discussion about this, when we've got all this money for paving streets, and that's a huge priority. We heard that tonight with the tracking study, keeping our streets up to date and potholes filled. But what can we do in a holistic way when we're going in and doing that? Is that the opportunity when we can do curb cuts that need to happen? When we can do, repaint the red curbs, or do the ones we haven't done before, or do the parking stripes, all this stuff. And I know that there are lots of things that go into it. And Matt's probably looking at me saying, oh my God, what is she talking about? I realize there is a lot more than just what I'm saying. But I think the more we have to be smart about our money, we have to be very smart about when we have an opportunity that's budgeted, how can we do the most with the time that we have? And that's everything around. So
I'd ask Matt Faber, can you please come up and talk to us about just our holistic approach when we do street repaving projects?
That would be great.
So you can get it in detail.
Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you for being here and for everything you and your team do every day of the year.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak and making my time here worthwhile, waiting in the audience. So when we do our paving projects, most of our paving projects do often trigger ADA requirements, so we often have to upgrade the curb ramps as part of those projects. We're often addressing some of our drainage issues, some of our sidewalk issues as we're going through those streets. We used to do more drainage improvements, but we ended up finding that we were spending more money on drainage improvements than on the paving, so we've scaled back on some of that. We do incorporate striping in terms of improving and adding in bike master plan improvements where we can, if they are not improvements that would be significant in terms of removing significant amounts of parking or removing lanes of travel. Those kinds of things we manage separately as individual projects because they usually require a significant amount of community engagement. But where we can include just the improved striping and adding bike lanes, that's where we're getting some of our lower priority projects done out of the bike master plan, is just incorporating that through our paving program. So we do a lot of things already through the paving program. I think you mentioned things like upgrading striping or excuse me, curb painting. I'd have to double check and see to what extent we do that and see if that's an opportunity for us to make additional improvements. I don't think we're looking at upgrades to planting strips and things like that as part of the paving program, because that's starting to get a little bit outside of the bounds of what the paving money is intended to be used for.
No, I appreciate that. And it's just the more you can help us think holistically as well, because we say, do this, do it now, do it quickly. Yeah, we have to think about the whole thing all the time. So I know I was just speaking with a number of neighbors in Hayward Park this weekend, and and some of them have been talking about 9th and Laurel, and then they brought up South and Palm. And I know there's a lot of work going on thinking about that, but the more we can take advantage of the opportunities where we're already going to be involved, to go just that one extra step and do something there would be just great.
Yeah, and one other thing that we do incorporate is the AB 413 daylighting requirements. So we are doing that as part of implementation of all those projects as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just really quickly, looking at time, Mayor, do you want to extend?
Oh yes, I suppose. It would seem to me that we're almost done. So I imagine we could aim for 11:15 perhaps, and unless anyone has a better idea. Very good. I'll second that. City Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please, on extending the meeting to 11:15?
Certainly. Councilmember Spirko-Goditsky?
Yes.
Mayor Lorraine?
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom?
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, City Manager, and thank you, Councilmember Diaz-Nash, for your questions, and Director Faby for your answers. Does anyone else have any questions? Council, you do. Okay. Well, he's
okay.
Very good. Councilmember Newsom.
Right. I'll be fast. Ms. Teeler's question about the $500,000 investment. We are making that, right?
You're making, if you approve the budget tonight, a $4 million investment.
Well, that's what I thought. Above and beyond.
And we have 1.4 million currently in the fund as well. So it'd be a total of 5.4 this evening, which is enough for us to at least get through the work this year. And then we're planning to come back as part of next year's CIP with another request.
And then just to clarify something that Councilmember Diaz-Nash asked about, which is the Get Around program funds a certain amount of rides. Do we pay for these rides as they're used, or meaning if there are people who are no longer with us and no longer using the Get Around program, are there unused trips that we've already paid for?
So it's only whatever we use. Marie, you there? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, it's only what we use. So we will get billed for what is being used.
So while it is important that we clean up the list, we're not losing revenue in that respect.
No, and it's a multi-pronged factor that we're working through too. So it's also just the cost that people pay to utilize it. It's been at the same price for a very long time. It's something that we have to look at. Additionally, just our service providers, how much they're charging per trip. These are all things that are going to be on the table over the next 6 months that we're going to be looking at. So I didn't go into the depth of what we're going to be doing on our end, but there's a lot more layers to this onion, so I can get to the bottom of this so that we can get the best price for our seniors.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Fernandez.
Just a couple of questions. Thank you for a very comprehensive report, Abby. I just wanted some clarification on the fingers crossed VLF funds that may be included in the state budget. If that money comes to fruition, if we actually are in receipt of that money, is it going to be left in the budget stabilization reserve, or is it going to be moved towards the unfunded capital needs?
So typically when we receive the VLF backfill, we would normally put it right into the operating funds. Okay. So we would do an appropriation to add it to our projected revenues for fiscal year 26-27 if we were going to realize that money.
If we're in receipt of that money, and fingers crossed.
Right.
Lighting candles and prayers up. And then my last question is about the Marina Lagoon spot dredging project. So it lists, so the project, so in the document it lists that we're going to be completing our 2,000 cubic yard. I guess maybe this is a Matt Fabry question, but we're going to be completing the 2,000 cubic yard removal by October 2026. But the large scale dredging is an unfunded 2 to 5 year objective. Do we have an estimated cost for that full scale dredging project? And then how reliant is it on securing federal dollars on that?
Yeah, so the study that was done previously, I believe back in 2018, in terms of the magnitude of a full-scale dredging, it said that to do a full-scale dredging that would, I think, restore the lagoon back to its original configuration when it was first constructed would be about 270,000 cubic yards. So compared to the 2,000 that we're doing under the spot dredging, it's much more significant. The costs for that ranged upwards to, it was different scenarios in terms of, different scenarios of what scale of dredging could be done. But if you did the full scale dredging and all of that material had to be taken to a landfill, that's the majority of the cost, is the disposal of the material. And that at the time, I think was around $85 million. So we have not advanced anything in terms of a large scale dredging other than, with the storm drain master plan, we have updated bathymetry in terms of what's the underground or the underwater elevations within the lagoon. So we have better data in terms of what's in there in terms of sediment. But this is something that we've been discussing with the Army Corps of Engineers to see if we can get a partnership study going on how can we look at dredging that and getting federal support. That's generally the approach that you have to take if you're going to get significant federal dollars, is working with the Corps of Engineers. So fortunately, we do have a authorization in the Water Resources Development Act, which is the first step, is you have to get an authorization, but then you have to get money to actually do the study, and it's a 50-50 split between what the city has to provide and what comes from the federal government. So we have been so far unsuccessful in getting money allocated through our request in terms of through the Corps and through our legislative representatives, but we'll continue working on that to see if we can get approval for money to start doing a study on that. And I think some of the things that we want to look at is at the same time that we're looking at that, we're also doing our climate adaptation plan, which is looking at shoreline resilience and how are we going to protect our shorelines from sea level rise. And oftentimes as you're doing that protection, it requires large amounts of sediment to do nature-based solutions. So I think one of the things that I really want to look at is, can we holistically look at dredging the lagoon, beneficially using the sediment that gets pulled from the lagoon to look at our shoreline adaptation. So there are some challenges with that. We have legacy pollutants in the sediments in the lagoon, and so there's restrictions in terms of what can and can't be used for beneficial reuse. But those are some of the things that we're looking at in terms of ways that we could hopefully do it much more cost effectively and get multiple benefits out of, the approach of making the lagoon better in terms of additional storage capacity, as well as providing resilience against future climate change.
Thank you.
Sure.
Those are all my questions, Mr. Mayor.
Through the mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So just to clarify, the reason it's on the 2 to 5 year timeline is because there's short-term projects, midterm, and then long-term. So the reason it was prioritized that way is it will forever be a line item because we don't have 85. Yeah, we don't have 85 million, but great question. But the reason it was prioritized that way is because there's some short-term work and then midterm and then long-term.
Thank you for that. And with that, frankly, I appreciate the questions that others asked. I am hopeful with others that we may have an opportunity to get some VLF funding, frankly. And did the city manager have something you wish to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to point one other highlight new this year is your guys' strategic plan that is in the budget book. So if you go ahead and look in there, we're really hitting the top 10 priorities of this council and this community. But then within there, you have your smart activities that coincide with all those areas. And so as you're talking to community members, it's a great way to be able to refer back to that list because it's all encompassing. So whether it's in sustainability, economic vitality, public safety, it's all in there. And so anyone who is interested in the public to hear what we're doing to make progress in this council and this community's 10 priority areas, it's all now listed within the budget. And we'll be measuring that year to year.
Excellent. Thank you for that inclusion. At this time, I want to check back with our finance director and get clarity on the exact type of recommendation we may need to make. I believe we're adopting a resolution to approve the fiscal year 2026-27 operating and capital budgets. Yes. And the 2026-31 capital improvement program, the fiscal year 2026-27 Gann appropriations limit, and the 2025-26 year-end supplemental budget adjustments. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. City Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Newsom?
Yes.
Councilmember Svirko-Gaditsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Mayor Lorraine?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. That concludes that item, and we've
Mr. Mayor, real quick, I just want to thank our staff. They worked really hard across this entire organization at this time. You know, just every department, every staff member really had to step up, and it took hours and hours and hours to get here. And so I just wanted to applaud them, our entire organization, for the great work that they've done here for this.
Great job.
Okay, a round of applause. Just this once. Thank you very much. Excellent. Yes, indeed. We are grateful to be in the position we are. And now with that, I'll move to reports, announcements, and committee updates and just see if anyone has any. Councilmember Svirko-Gaditsky.
Yes, I will be brief. So this week we had the FIFA pop-up downtown, and I just want to say it was a really excellent event. And I know that city staff threw that together pretty quickly, Parks and Rec, DSMA, and then Zach. So just wanted to say thank you for that. And there are a few more pop-ups happening later this month, so you should all attend. I think the next one is June 25th at 7 p.m. It is FIFA World Cup showing in Central Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Newsom.
USA. Yeah. I specifically wore this tie for Team USA, and because we won't meet until after 4th of July. So happy 250th birthday to the great country of the United States of America. Sorry, that sounded a little MAGA. It wasn't meant to be, but this flag belongs to everyone. Thank you.
Yes, we pledged allegiance to the flag earlier. Very good. Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
And also just want to remind everyone, Music in the Park is starting this Thursday. And so that's every Thursday for several weeks. And if you're really lucky, you can come down and watch each one of us be the MC every time. And that's going to be, FIFA's going to be in conjunction with Music in the Park. And then there'll be a special one on 4th of July as well. And once again, everyone come out for the education programs. Come on the 22nd, come on the 23rd, come on the 25th, whenever. Just come and learn. It's really important.
Agreed. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Just want to call out the county and the city for an amazing Pride celebration on Saturday. My gosh, it was large and in charge and just a beautiful expression of people loving who they love and being who they are. So thank you to everybody who worked really hard on that. I also wanted to report in that Mayor Lorraine and I attended the San Mateo Foster City Partners Awards on Friday, and congratulations to San Mateo Consolidated Fire and the City of San Mateo's Park and Rec for winning partnership awards for their amazing work with the school district. So thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I need to bring those awards to City Hall. I forgot to do that today. But thank you for highlighting that. There's been a number of events recently. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Best of San Mateo Awards that we just had last week. That was an awesome event at the College of San Mateo, and I feel like the partners lunch was also at the College of San Mateo. There's been a number of reasons to attend events at the college, and that one was awesome. To me, the speeches were, other than me, were really great, including Coach Tulloch. I was blown away, but also moving speeches from award winners, including Maggie DeVera from Chill Spot Rendezvous, and Laura Bent from Samaritan House. I was really just it's an event that's maturing and really not one to miss next year. So everybody check it out. And that's right. Who's going to win it next year? This is the biggest question on everybody's mind. And I think that's pretty good. So I will look to the city attorney.
So I don't have an announcement, but I just wanted to remind the council that we will be adjourning the regular meeting and then reconvening the special meeting to handle the closed sessions. So we'll be taking public comment and then going to room C, but there won't be any reporting out from those closed sessions. So we'll just end the special meeting once those closed sessions are complete.
I very much appreciate this reminder.
Do we need a motion to continue past 11 for the special meeting?
I think we ought to, right?
Well, I mean, you have to actually do that during the special meeting as opposed to doing it during the regular meeting. So I think if we adjourn the regular meeting, we reconvene the special meeting, and then it's a few minutes past, but then you can make a motion to extend.
May it be thus. Regular meeting adjourned. Welcome back to the special meeting. Thank you for